Hi guys, tonight we drift quietly into the frozen world of the Great Plains and the clever ways the people stayed warm during the long nights. The sun is sinking below the flat line of the earth. The air is turning cold river clerkly now. It feels like ice against your cheeks, sharp and biting. The wind is coming off the open fields like a cold rushing river, finding every tiny gap in your clothes. You can hear the dry yellow grass snapping under your boots as you walk. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and if you want to let me know where you are listening from, and what time it is where you are. I always love seeing those little snapshots of the world. Now dim the lights and let the story begin. You are standing on a vast sea of grass. In every direction, the land stretches out until it touches the sky. There are no tall trees here to block the wind. There are no stone walls to hide behind. In the summer, this land is golden and hot, filled with the sound of insects and the smell of warm earth. But tonight, the world is changing. The autumn has been short, and the first true frost of the winter is arriving. You can feel it in your lungs when you breathe. Each breath comes out as a thick puff of white steam. It hangs in the stillness for a second before the wind whisks it away. This is the start of the long dark. For the Lakota, the Cheyenne, and the Arapaho, this moment is a signal. It is the time when the night shift truly begins. While the rest of the world might think of winter as a time to sleep, for you and your people, it is a time of constant, careful work to stay alive and warm. The Great Plains cover millions of square miles across the center of the continent. It is one of the most beautiful places on Earth, but it can also be very dangerous when the temperature drops. You look down at the ground. The grass, which was soft and green just a few months ago, is now stiff and brown. A thin layer of white frost is starting to coat the blades. It looks like a dusting of sugar, but it is cold to the touch. When you step on it, it makes a tiny crunching sound. Everything is becoming quiet. The birds that sang in the bushes have flown south. The big animals are finding places to hide. You are one of the few things moving in the dark. The sky above you is a deep, dark purple. The first few stars are starting to poke through the blanket of the night. They look like tiny, cold diamonds. You know that as soon as the sun disappears completely, the temperature will fall even faster. Without the sun to warm the ground, the heat escapes up into the sky. This is why the wind feels so much heavier now. It is a north wind. It has traveled a long way over the frozen ground to reach you here. It carries the smell of distant snow and old ice. You pull your wrap closer. It is made of thick animal skin, but even now, you can feel the cold trying to find its way through the seams. This is why the work you do tonight is so important. The survival of your family depends on how well you understand the cold. You do not fight the winter. You learn how to live inside it. You use the things the land gives you to create a little world of warmth. In your hand, you hold a small tool made from the leg bone of a buffalo. This is a flesher. It is a micro-history of your daily life. It is smooth from years of use, worn down by the grip of your hand. You have used this tool to scrape the fat and hair away from animal skins. It is simple, but without it, you would have no clothes to wear and no home to sleep in. The bone is cold from out, but it feels strong and familiar. It is a reminder of all the work that has already been done to prepare for this frost. The first frost is a quiet enemy. It does not come with a loud crash or a bright light. It just arrives, turning the water in the buckets to ice and making the wood of the poles creak. You watch as a small puddle near your feet slowly turns solid. The ripples on the surface freeze into tiny, still waves. It is as if the whole world is holding its breath, waiting to see if you are ready for what is coming. You take a moment to look around. The silence is very deep. There are no cars, no machines, and no distant hum of a city. There is only the sound of the wind moving through the grass and the distant crack of a frozen branch in a nearby creek. It is a lonely sound, but it is also peaceful. In this silence, you feel very small, but also very focused. You know exactly what needs to be done. The fire must be fed. The walls must be tightened. The food must be gathered. The elders say that the winter is a time for telling stories, but before the stories can start, the home must be made safe. You look toward the shadows where the camp is settled. You can see the dark shapes of the tipis standing like giant birds with their wings folded. They look strong against the grey sky. They are the only thing standing between you and the freezing wind that will blow for the next many months. You think about the warmth that is waiting inside those walls. Even though it is freezing out here, inside there will be the smell of wood smoke and the sound of soft voices. There will be the golden light of a small fire reflecting off the smooth skins of the walls. That warmth is not an accident. It is something that has been planned for a long time. Every piece of wood, every bit of dried meat, and every stitch in your clothing was made with this exact night in mind. You walk toward the camp, your boots making that steady, rhythmic crunch in the frost. The air is so clear that you can see for miles, even in the dark. The horizon is a sharp line, and the stars seem to be hanging just out of reach. It is a beautiful, cold, and empty world. You feel the sting of the air on your skin, but you do not feel afraid. You are the watchman of this night. You are the one who sees the change in the seasons and knows how to react. As you reach the first teepee, you stop for a second. You place your hand against the outer skin of the dwelling. It is cold and hard, like a shell, but when you lean closer, you can feel a tiny bit of heat escaping from the top. It is the sign of life inside. It is a small victory against the vast freezing plains. This is the first night of many, and the work has only just begun. The frost is here, the sun is gone, and the night shift is starting. You take one last look at the frozen grass and the cold stars. Then you reach for the door flap to step inside. The transition from the biting wind to the still air of the doorway is the first step in your journey through the winter. To build a home that can stand up to the mountain winds, you must first find the right bones for it. These bones are not made of stone or metal. They are the long, straight trunks of the cedar tree. You leave the open grass behind and walk towards the places where the land dips down. In these low spots, near the frozen creeks and hidden valleys, the trees grow tall and reach for the light. The ground here is softer under your feet because of the fallen needles from the trees. It feels like walking on a thick, dusty carpet. The air here smells different than it does on the open plains. Out there, the air smells of nothing but cold and dry grass. Here, among the trees, it smells of sap and old wood. It is a deep, green smell that stays in your nose and makes you feel a little warmer just by breathing it in. You are looking for poles that are very specific. They must be about 20 feet long. If you imagine 3 tall men standing on top of each other's shoulders, that is how high these poles need to reach. But they cannot be too heavy. If they are too thick, they will be too hard to carry when it is time to move the camp. If they are too thin, the heavy winter snow will snap them like dry twigs. You walk slowly through the grove, your eyes scanning the tops of the trees. You are looking for lodgepole trees. They are special because they grow very straight and have very few branches near the bottom. This is a simple historical fact. These trees were so important that tribes would sometimes travel hundreds of miles just to find a good forest of them. A good set of poles was a prize. People would keep them for many years, taking them from place to place. They were like the most important furniture in your house, but they were also the walls and the roof. You find a tree that looks right. You reach out and touch the bark. It is rough and scaly, and in some places you can see the sticky, clear sap leaking out. This sap is like the blood of the tree. It is what makes the wood so strong. Cedar is a clever choice for a home because the wood does not rot easily when it gets wet. It can stand in the rain and the snow for a long time and stay tough. You use a heavy stone tool to tap on the trunk. The sound is solid and deep. This is a good tree. It is healthy and full of life, even though the winter is trying to put everything to sleep. The work of cutting the tree is slow and quiet. You do not have loud saws or machines. You have tools made of hard stone and a lot of patience. As you work, you have to be careful. You do not want to break the wood or make it split. Every pole must be perfect. If one pole is weak, the whole teepee might lean or shake when the big winds come across the plains. You feel the muscles in your arms getting warm as you move. It is a strange feeling. Your hands are cold from the air, but your body is warm from the labor. Once the tree is down, you have to clean it. This is where you use a special tool called a scraper. It is a flat piece of stone with a sharp edge, held in a wooden handle. This is your microhistory detail for tonight. You use this scraper to peel away the bark. You don't want the bark to stay on the pole because it holds moisture and bugs. You want the wood underneath to be smooth and white. As you pull the scraper toward you, the bark curls up and falls to the ground in long, brown strips. Underneath, the wood is wet and smells even more strongly of cedar. It is beautiful to look at. It looks like clean bone. You stop for a moment to rest. The woods are completely silent now. The wind that was whistling across the grass earlier cannot reach you down here among the trunks. You listen to your own breathing. It is the only sound in the world. You look up through the branches at the stars. They are tiny points of light filtered through the needles of the trees. In this moment of stillness, you feel a deep connection to the land. You are taking something from the earth, this tree, but you are doing it with respect. You are going to turn this tree into a protector. It will hold up the skins that keep your children warm. It will be the skeleton of your family's world. The wood feels heavy in your hands as you begin to move it. You cannot just carry a 20-foot pole on your shoulder for miles. Instead, you use the land to help you. You slide the pole along the frozen ground. The ice and the frost make the wood glide easily, almost like a boat on water. You have to be careful not to get the pole stuck in the bushes or between other trees. It is like a slow dance through the forest. You move a little, then you stop and adjust. You move a little more. Think about how many of these poles you need. A good, large teepee might need 20 of them. That is a lot of trees to find, cut, and clean. It is a job that takes days of careful searching. Each pole has its own personality. Some are a little bit curved at the top. Some are very thick at the base. You learn the shape of each one by touch. Even in the dark, you could run your hand along a pole and know which part of the house it belongs to. As you drag the pole out of the trees and back toward the open plains, the wind hits you again. It is a shock after the quiet of the woods. The cold air bites at your ears and makes your eyes water. But you have the wood now. You have the bones. You look back at the dark line of the forest. The trees look like ghosts in the starlight. You feel a sense of pride. You have found what you needed. You are bringing the strength of the forest back to the camp. The snow is starting to fall very lightly now. The flakes are small and dry, like grains of salt. They bounce off the white wood of the cedar pole. You keep moving, one step at a time, toward the distant glow of the campfires. Your feet find a familiar path. The weight of the pole behind you is a good weight. It is the weight of safety. It is the weight of a home that will not fall down. You imagine the finished house with these poles tied tightly at the top, reaching up toward the sky like fingers. They will hold the buffalo skins tight against the wind. They will keep the rain out and the warmth in. You are tired, but your heart is steady. The first part of the night shift is done. You have gathered the frame. Tomorrow the women will take these poles and use their clever hands to turn them into a house. But for now, you just focus on the walk, the crunch of the frost, the smell of the cedar, and the long white shape of the wood following you through the dark. You are the guardian of the materials. You are the one who knows which tree is strong enough to face the winter. You take a deep breath of the freezing air and keep walking. The morning light is thin and grey, like a piece of warm cloth stretched across the sky. You step out from your temporary shelter and see that the work has already begun. The women of the camp are moving with a quiet, steady energy. In the culture of the plains, the home belongs to the women. They are the ones who design it, build it, and own it. While the men might gather the heavy wood from the creek beds, it is the women who are the masters of the structure. They are the engineers of the plains. You stand back and watch them work, marveling at how they move together without needing to speak many words. You see a group of 3 women standing near the stack of cedar poles you helped bring in last night. They are choosing the most important ones. These are the 3 poles that will form the tripod, the strong heart of the house. Everything else depends on these 3 pieces of wood. You watch as they lay them out on the frozen ground. They are measuring the distance with their eyes and their feet, using skills passed down from their mothers and grandmothers. There is no paper or ink here, only memory and the feel of the wood. The air is still very cold, and you can see their breath rising in little clouds as they work. Their hands are bare, the skin toughened by years of working in the wind. They do not seem to mind the chill. They are focused on the task. One woman picks up a long piece of rawhide rope. This is the micro-history detail of the mourning a thick, strong cord made from the skin of a buffalo that has been dried until it is as tough as iron. She soaks it slightly to make it bendy, then wraps it around the tops of the 3 poles. She ties a knot that is clever and strong, one that will not slip even when the wind tries to pull the poles apart. As they begin to lift the tripod, you see the true strength of these women. They do not use machines or pulleys. They use their backs and their arms working in perfect time. 1, 2, 3, and the frame rises into the air. The feet of the poles dig into the frozen earth, making a small crunching sound. They spread the legs out until the structure is steady. It looks like a giant skeleton reaching for the clouds. It is simple, but it is also very smart. The tripod shape is one of the strongest shapes in the world. It can hold up hundreds of pounds of weight and stay standing during a storm that would knock over a flat wall. Now, the other poles are added. One by one, they are leaned against the top of the tripod. You watch as the circle begins to form. Each pole has its own place. The women know exactly where each one goes to make the circle even. If the circle is not perfect, the wind will find a way to get under the skins and lift the house off the ground. You walk closer and touch one of the poles. It feels cold and smooth, but you can feel the tension in it. It is ready to hold the weight of the winter. Next comes the heaviest part of the job, the cover. This is made of many buffalo hides that have been sewn together. It is very large and very heavy. When it is dry, it is stiff, but the women have ways of making it move. They have spent weeks preparing this skin. They used a special tool called an awl to make the holes for the stitches. An awl is a sharp pointed tool made from a piece of bone. It is small enough to fit in the palm of a hand, but it is strong enough to poke through the thickest leather. You think about the thousands of tiny holes that had to be made to join these skins together. Every stitch was a moment of work, a promise of warmth for the winter. The women tie the cover to a final pole, which they call the lifting pole. This is the moment of greatest effort. They raise the pole, and the massive skin follows it, unfolding like the wings of a great bird. The wind catches the leather for a second, and it billows out with a loud thwack sound, like a sail on a boat. For a moment, it looks as though the wind might carry the whole thing away. The women hold on tight, their feet bracing against the grass. They are calm. They have done this hundreds of times. They guide the skin around the wooden frame, wrapping the house in its winter coat. They use long wooden pins to fasten the front of the teepee together. These pins are like large needles made of hard wood. They slide them through the overlapping edges of the skin, sealing the house shut. You can see the shape of the home now. It is a tall cone, pointed at the top and wide at the bottom. It is a shape that lets the wind slide right over it. While a square house would catch the winds like a wall, this round shape lets the air flow around it peacefully. The women move inside now to start the work on the floor. You stay outside for a moment, looking at the way the new home sits on the land. The sun is trying to break through the clouds, casting a pale, watery light over the camp. The only sound is the flapping of the leather and the distant call of a crow. In this silence, you realize that this house is not just a building, it is a living thing. It is made of the trees and the animals of the plains. It belongs here. It fits into the landscape as perfectly as a stone or a bush. You feel a sense of safety just looking at it. The grey, freezing world outside suddenly feels less scary because you know there's a thick, leather wall standing between you and the frost. You see one of the women come back outside to check the bottom of the skins. She pulls them tight and stakes them to the ground with wooden pegs. She is making sure there are no gaps where the cold air can crawl in. She looks up at you and gives a small, tired nod. The work is hard, but it is good work. It is the work of keeping the family alive. She goes back inside, and you follow her, stepping through the small opening that will be the door. Inside, the air is already different. It is still, and the wind is just a soft hum against the outside. The light is dim and golden, filtered through the thick buffalo hides. It smells of dried grass and old smoke. The floor is still the cold, frozen earth, but that will change soon. The women are already laying down mats and soft furs. They are turning a cold space into a warm room. You watch as they move the poles just a tiny bit, fine-tuning the balance of the house. They are like artists finishing a painting. As the morning moves on, more teepees rise up around you. The camp is taking shape. What was just a flat, empty field a few hours ago is now a village. It is a place of protection. You think about the history of this way of building. For thousands of years, people have lived this way. They did not need bricks or mortar. They needed the gifts of the buffalo and the strength of the cedar. And most of all, they needed the clever hands of the women who knew how to put it all together. You find a spot to sit near the center of the floor. You run your hand over the smooth wood of one of the poles. It is solid and firm. You feel the weight of the hides pressing down, holding the poles in place. It is a perfect system of balance. The more the wind blows, the tighter the skins pull against the frame, making the whole house even stronger. It is a beautiful design. It is a house that breathes with the wind and stands firm against the ice. You close your eyes for a second, listening to the quiet work continuing around you. The home is built. Now the real task of staying warm begins. You move away from the wooden poles for a moment and walk toward a large, heavy pile resting on a wooden platform. This pile is the most important treasure of the camp. It is the collection of buffalo hides that will become the skin of your home. As you reach out to touch them, your fingers sink deep into the thick, dark fur. It is softer than you expected. Like a heavy, warm cloud, the fur is dense and curly, designed by nature to keep a giant animal alive in a blizzard. Now, that same fur will do the same for you. You pull the top hide back a little way. It is very heavy. It takes a lot of strength just to lift one corner. These are not thin pieces of leather, like you might find on a pair of modern shoes. These are thick, tough skins that have been worked on for weeks by the clever hands of the women. To make just one teepee cover, you need many of these skins. Usually, it takes between 15 and 20 large buffalo hides to make a single home. When they are all sewn together, the cover can weigh more than 60 kilograms. It is a massive weight to protection. There is a simple historical fact you should know about these skins. The people of the plains always tried to hunt the buffalo for their lodge covers during the late autumn or early winter. They did this because the buffalo grows much thicker coat of fur when the weather turns cold. A skin taken in the summer is thin and light, which is good for clothes, but a winter skin is deep and heavy. It acts like a thick wall of insulation. It traps the air inside the fur, and that trapped air stays warm. This is the same way a bird stays warm by fluffing its feathers. As you run your hand over the leather side of the skin, the side without the hair, it feels as smooth as a piece of velvet. It does not feel like a raw animal skin anymore. It has been changed into something special. This leads us to our microhistory detail for this section, the process of brain tatting. It sounds strange, but it is a very clever bit of science from the old days. The women would use the brain of the buffalo itself to treat the skin. They would mix it into a paste and rub it deep into the hide. The natural oils in the brain would break down the tough fibers of the leather, making it soft and waterproof. Without this process, the skin would turn as hard as a rock as soon as it got wet and dried out. But a brain-tanned hide stays soft and bendy. Even after a heavy rain or a deep snow, you lean down and put your face close to the hide. It has a very specific smell. It does not smell like a dead thing. It smells of the earth, of sweet grass, and of the many hours of wood smoke it has soaked up. It is a comforting, dusty smell that reminds you of being safe inside. You can see the marks of the tools on the surface. There are tiny, rhythmic lines where a scraper was used to pull away the fat and the meat. Each mark is a sign of the hard labor that went into making this home. You think about the women sitting together in the sun, talking and laughing as they worked the skins, their arms tired, but their hearts full because they were building safety for their families. The wind picks up again, tugging at the edges of the heavy pile. You feel the cold air trying to get under your sleeves, but you press your hands deeper into the buffalo fur. The world around you seems to fade away for a moment. You are standing in a small space between the piles of skins, and for a second, the sound of the wind is muffled. In this silence, you feel the sheer power of the animal that gave these hides. The buffalo was the king of the plains. It was strong, steady, and brave. By using its skin for your walls, you are wrapping yourself in that strength. You are not just building a house, you are living inside a gift from the land. You listen to the quiet whish of the snow hitting the leather, and you feel a deep sense of peace. You begin to help move the hides toward the wooden frame. Each one is a struggle to carry. You can feel the weight in your shoulders and your back. It is a slow process. You have to be careful not to let the soft leather touch the wet mud or the sharp rocks. You treat these skins with great respect. They are more than just building materials. They are the result of a long journey. First, there was the hunt, where the men had to be brave and fast. Then there was the tanning, where the women had to be patient and skilled. And now, there is the building. You look at the different colors of the hides. Some are a dark, rich brown, almost like chocolate. Others are a lighter, golden color, like the hills at sunset. When they are all sewn together, the teepee will have a beautiful, mottled look. At night, when a fire is lit inside, these skins will glow. They will look like a giant lantern sitting on the dark grass. The light will shine through the thinner parts of the leather, showing the beautiful patterns of the grain. The thickness of the skin is what keeps the night shift going. Because the leather is so dense it blocks the wind completely. You could have a howling gale outside, moving at 60 miles an hour, but inside the teepee, the flame of a small candle would stay perfectly still. The leather absorbs the heat from the fire and slowly releases it, acting like a giant radiator. It is a perfect system. It is simple, natural, and more effective than many modern materials. You pick up a smaller piece of skinner leftover scrap from the sewing. It is a piece of winter kill hide, with the fur left very long. You tuck it into your belt. This small piece of fur will be used to wrap a tool or perhaps to line a moccasin for a child. Nothing is wasted. Every scrap of this animal is a piece of warmth. You feel the texture of the hair against your palm one last time. It is coarse but warm. It is the texture of survival. The grey sky is getting darker now, and the first few flakes of real snow are starting to stick to the dark fur of the hides. You know that soon these skins will be stretched tight over the cedar poles. They will be pinned together with wooden stakes, and the door will be closed. The heavy buffalo hides will do their job. They will stand between you and the freezing void of the plains. You take a deep breath of that smoky, earthy leather smell and pick up the next hide. The work is heavy, but the reward is a warm night's sleep. You move toward the rising frame, your feet steady on the frozen ground, carrying the warmth of the buffalo with you. You stand in the center of the camp as the sun begins to hide behind a thick bank of clouds. The air is very still now, but it is a heavy stillness that tells you a storm might be coming. Around you, the three most important cedar poles are lying on the ground. These are the 3 poles that will form the tripod. In the history of the Great Plains, different tribes had different ways of starting their homes. Some used 4 poles to start, but the Lakota and many of their neighbors found that a 3-pole tripod was much stronger against the sudden, shifting winds of the open country. It is a simple fact of building. A triangle is a shape that does not like to break or bend. You look at the poles. They are long and pale, stripped of their bark and polished by the wind. They look like the bones of a great animal waiting to be put back together. The women move toward them, and you step in to help with the heavy lifting. You can feel the cold of the wood through your thick mittens. It is a deep, biting cold that has soaked into the heart of the cedar. You grab the thickest part of the pole, the butt end, while the women gather at the top where the poles meet. One of the women holds a long, thick rope made of rawhide. This is your microhistory detail for this moment, the tie rope. This rope is made from a long strip of buffalo skin that has been dried but not tanned. It is very stiff and incredibly strong. Before it is used, it is often soaked in water to make it just a little bit soft. As it dries in the cold air, it will shrink. As it shrinks, it pulls the poles together with a force so great that no man could ever pull them apart. She wraps the rope around the 3 poles using a special pattern of loops. She wraps it 7 times. This is not just for strength. It is a tradition that has been followed for hundreds of years. The signal is given. You push upward from the bottom, and the women lift from the top. You can feel the weight of the trees pressing down through your arms and into your legs. Your boots sink slightly into the frozen mud and grass. It is a slow, heavy movement. The poles creak as they rub against each other. It is a sound like a heavy door opening on old hinges. Slowly, the tops of the poles rise higher and higher, pointing toward the grey sky. Now comes the part that requires great care. The legs of the tripod must be pulled out to form the perfect base. You move to one pole and pull it toward you, while the women move the others. You hear the thud of the wood hitting the ground. It is a solid, grounding sound. Once the 3 legs are set, the structure suddenly feels different. A moment ago, it was just 3 trees leaning on each other. Now, it is a frame. It is the beginning of a sanctuary. You give the pole a small shake, and it does not move. It is locked into place by its own weight and the clever wrap of the rawhide rope. You step back and look up. The 3 poles meet at a point far above your head. Against the darkening sky, they look like a giant hand, with 3 fingers reaching up to catch the stars. You can see the long tail of the rawhide rope hanging down from the center of the tripod. This rope is very important. Later, if a very big wind comes, a heavy stone or a bag of sand can be tied to this rope to weigh the whole house down, keeping it from blowing over in a blizzard. The world feels very big around this small wooden frame. You stand perfectly still for a long minute. The wind has picked up just a little bit, and it makes a soft whistling sound as it passes through the gap where the poles meet. You look through the wooden skeleton at the rest of the camp. Other tripods are going up, appearing like ghosts in the dim light. There is no shouting, no loud banging of hammers. There is only the quiet, steady rhythm of people who know exactly what they are doing. In this silence, you feel a sense of wonder. This simple arrangement of 3 trees is the foundation for everything. It is where children will be born, where old stories will be told, and where the fire will keep the winter at bay. You walk around the base of the tripod, checking the distance between the legs. You use your own footsteps to measure. It needs to be wide enough for a family to live comfortably, but not so wide that the fire in the middle cannot keep the walls warm. It is a delicate balance. You notice how the feet of the poles have slightly sharp ends. These toes dig into the earth, anchoring the house to the plains. The ground here is the floor of your home, and the sky is your roof. But for now, you are building the space in between. The cedar smells very strong now that the wood has been moved. It is a clean, sharp scent that cuts through the smell of the damp earth. You run your hand along the wood again. You can feel the grain of the tree, the lines that show how many years it lived in the forest before it came here to protect you. It feels honest. It feels like something you can trust. You know that even if the snow piles up 6 feet high against the sides of this house, these 3 poles will hold. They have the strength of the forest inside them. One of the women comes over with a long, thin stick. She uses it to mark the spots where the other poles will go. The tripod is just the start. Soon there will be a dozen more poles leaning against this heart. But you stop for a second to appreciate the tripod on its own. It is so simple, yet so perfect. It is a piece of engineering that did not need a school or a book to create. It was born from watching how the world works, how the wind blows, and how the trees grow. The light is fading fast now. The deep blues and purples of the evening are filling the spaces between the poles. You feel the temperature drop another few degrees. Your nose is cold, and your fingers are starting to feel a bit stiff again. But looking at the tripod gives you a feeling of warmth in your chest. The bones of the home are up. The most difficult part of the heavy lifting is finished. You have created a point in the middle of this vast empty wilderness that is now inside. You take the end of the hanging rawhide rope and coil it loosely so it doesn't tangle in the wind. The leather is cold and feels like a piece of frozen wood. You think about the buffalo that gave its skin for this rope and the tree that gave its body for these poles. Everything is connected. The land provides the tools, and the people provide the cleverness to use them. You take one last look at the tripod, standing tall and strong against the first stars of the night. It is a beautiful sight. It is the shape of safety. You turn to gather the next set of poles, your feet moving surely over the dark grass, ready to continue the work of building the winter world. The frame of your home is standing tall and bare against the cold sky. It looks like a skeleton, a collection of thin white bones reaching up into the freezing air. Now it is time to give this skeleton its skin. You walk over to where the large cover is folded on the ground. This cover is the result of months of work. It is made from many buffalo hides that have been sewn together into one massive heavy piece of leather. A simple historical fact about these homes is that a large teepee cover usually needed about 15 to 20 buffalo hides to make it big enough. That is a lot of weight to move, especially when the leather is cold and stiff from the autumn air. You reach down and grab the edge of the heavy skin. It feels rough and thick. Because it is so large, you cannot just pick it up and throw it over the poles. You need to use a very specific tool. This is our microhistory detail for this part of the job. The lifting pole. This is a special cedar pole, just like the others, but it is kept separate. You lay this pole down on top of the folded cover. One of the women uses a small strip of leather to tie the very center of the cover to the top of this pole. This connection must be very strong. If the knot slits while you are lifting it, the whole heavy skin will fall and could hurt someone. You and 2 others gather at the bottom of the lifting pole. You take a deep breath, and you can feel the cold air go deep into your chest. On the count of 3, you begin to push. You walk the pole upward, hand over hand, moving toward the wooden frame. You can feel the weight of the leather pulling back against you. It is a slow, heavy struggle. As the pole rises, the cover begins to unfold. It looks like the wings of a giant dark bird opening up for the first time. The wind, which has been blowing steadily across the plains, suddenly finds this new surface. It catches the leather and tries to pull the pole out of your hands. You have to plant your feet firmly in the dry grass and lean your whole weight forward. Slowly, the lifting pole reaches the back of the tripod. You rest the top of the pole against the place where the other poles meet. Now, the cover is hanging down the back of the frame. It looks like a long dark cape. You move quickly now, before the wind can cause any more trouble. You grab one side of the cover and begin to pull it around the side of the wooden frame. The leather makes a deep rubbing sound as it slides over the smooth cedar. It sounds like a heavy sigh. You walk in a circle, dragging the heavy skin with you. As you move, the world begins to change. When you were standing outside the frame, you could see the whole horizon and feel the wind from every direction. But as you pull the cover around, you are creating a wall. You are building a boundary between the wild, cold world and your private, warm space. You pull the skin tight against the poles. You want it to be as smooth as possible. If there are wrinkles in the skin, the rain or the melting snow will get caught in them and might leak inside. You want the water to slide right off, like it does off the back of a real buffalo. Once the two sides of the cover meet at the front, near the door, the women begin to use the wooden pins. These pins are about the size of a large pencil, but they are made of very hard wood. They slide them through small holes in the leather, joining the two edges together. You watch as the pins go in, one by one, from the top down toward the ground. Each pin makes a small snick sound as it pushes through the tough hide. It is a very satisfying sound. It means the house is becoming solid. It means the wind is being shut out. You step back for a moment and look up. The sky is almost gone now. You are standing in the shadow of the new walls. The only light comes from the very top, where the poles cross, and from the small opening at the bottom. The silence here is different. Outside, the wind is still whistling, and the dry grass is still rustling, but inside these leather walls, everything is muffled. It feels like you have put your hands over your ears. The air is still. You can hear your own heart beating. In this moment of quiet reflection, you realize how much a simple layer of skin can change your world. A moment ago, you were at the mercy of the vast plains. Now you have a place that belongs only to you and your family. You reach out and touch the inside of the cover. The leather is cool, but it is not freezing like the air outside. You can feel the texture of the grain. It feels strong and honest. You know that this skin has been through many storms before it ever became a house. The buffalo that wore this skin stood in the snow and the rain, and the skin kept it warm. Now it would do the same for you. It is a powerful thought. You are not just using a material, you are using a shield that has already been tested by nature. The women are now moving around the outside, pulling the bottom of the cover down toward the ground. They use heavy stones and wooden stakes to pin the bottom edge to the earth. This is very important for the night shift. If the bottom is loose, the wind will crawl under the skin and turn the inside of the teepee into a cold cave. They pull the leather so tight that it hums if you tap it with your finger, like the skin of a drum. This tightness helps the house stand up to the pressure of the wind. A loose teepee will flap and shake, but a tight one will stand as still as a mountain. You help carry a few large, smooth river stones to place along the edge. The stones are cold and heavy in your hands. You can feel the grit of the sand on them. As you set them down on the leather, you feel the house become even more grounded. It feels like it is growing out of the earth itself. The transition is almost complete. What started as a pile of wood and a heap of skins is now a structure. It has a shape, a smell, and a feeling. You look up at the very top of the house. You can see the smoke flaps, which look like two large ears. They are still hanging loose, but soon they will be used to control the air inside. You see the way the light filters through the thinner parts of the leather near the top. It is a soft amber glow. Even though it is a grey day outside, the inside of the teepee feels like it is filled with old, golden sunlight. It is a beautiful effect. It makes the space feel welcoming and safe. You take a final walk around the inside, making sure the cover is sitting correctly on every pole. You use your hands to smooth out a small fold near one of the cedar legs. The wood and the skin are working together now. The wood provides the strength to stand up, and the skin provides the softness to keep the heat in. It is a perfect partnership. You feel a deep sense of relief. The hardest physical work of the day is done. The cover is on, the pins are in, and the house is closed to the winter. You stand in the center, right where the fire will soon be, and look up at the circle of sky at the top. You're ready to move on to the next step of making this space truly warm. You take one last deep breath of the still, quiet air inside your new walls. The walls of your home are up, and the heavy buffalo cover is pinned tight, but if you were to sit down now, you would quickly find that the cold has a way of sneaking through the leather. To make a teepee truly warm enough for a freezing night on the plains, you need a second wall. This is called the inner lining. You gather several smaller, softer buffalo skins and move back inside the quiet circle of the cedar poles. A simple historical fact about this lining is that it does not go all the way to the top of the teepee. It is usually about 6 feet high, just tall enough to go over your head when you are sitting or standing near the edge. The lining is tied to the inside of the poles, creating a space between the outer cover and the inner wall. This gap is the most important part of the whole house. It is a dead air space, because the air in that gap cannot move around easily. It acts like a thick blanket. It keeps the cold from the outer skin away from the warm air near the fire. You pick up one of the lining skins. It is much lighter than the massive outer cover. This skin has been tanned until it is as soft as a piece of thick cloth. You can fold it easily with your hands. This brings us to our micro-history detail, the lining ties. These are small, thin strips of deer leather used to fasten the lining to the poles. You take a strip and loop it through a small hole in the top of the skin, then reach up and tie it to the cedar pole. You make sure to leave a little bit of slack so the lining hangs naturally. As you move around the circle, tying skin after skin to the poles, you are creating a room within a room. The bottom with this inner lining is tucked under the floor mats or held down with heavy bags of clothes. This is very clever because it creates a path for the air. Cold air can come in under the bottom of the outer cover, but it gets trapped behind the lining. Instead of hitting you and making you shiver, that cold air stays in the gap and flows up toward the top of the teepee. This helps pull the smoke from the fire out through the hole in the roof. It is like a natural machine that keeps the air fresh but the people warm. You stop for a moment to look at your work. The inside of the teepee is now much darker and much more private. The lining is a pale cream color, and it makes the space feel very cozy. You sit down on the ground and lean back against the new wall. It feels different than the outer skin. It is not cold to the touch. It feels soft and dry. In this silence, you can hear the wind hitting the outside of the house, but here inside, the air is perfectly still. You watch a tiny piece of dry grass float slowly through the air. It doesn't move to the side or blow away, it just sinks quietly to the ground. This tells you that your walls are perfect. There are no drafts. The lining also does something else that is very important for the night shift. It stops the moisture from your breath and the steam from the cooking pot from turning into frost on the walls. In a house with only one wall, the damp air would hit the cold leather and turn to ice. Then, when the fire got hot, that ice would melt and drip on your head. But with the lining, the dampness stays away from the cold outer skin. You stay dry and you stay warm. You reach out and smooth a wrinkle in one of the skins. You can feel the warmth of your own hand reflected back at you. It is a strange thing to think about, but this second wall makes the house almost twice as warm as it would be without it. It is a simple idea, but it shows how much the people of the plains understood about how heat moves. They did not have glass for windows or foam for walls, but they knew that a gap of air was the best way to stop the frost. The lining also makes the house look beautiful. Many families would paint pictures on their linings. They might paint stories of great hunts or pictures of stars and animals. As the fire starts to glow later, these pictures will seem to come to life in the flickering light. For now, your lining is plain, but it is clean and strong. It smells of sweet grass and clean water. It makes the large, tall teepee feel like a small, safe nest. You move to the last pole and tie the final strip of leather. The circle is complete. You walk all the way around, pushing on the lining with your hand to make sure it is steady. You can feel the dead air space behind it. It feels a cushion of protection. You know that even if the temperature outside drops to 30 degrees below zero, you will be able to sit here in your shirt and feel comfortable. You look up at the poles where they disappear behind the top of the lining. The shadows are deep up there, and you can see the light from the smoke hole far above. The house is now a system of layers. There is the wind, then the outer skin, then the air gap, then the lining, and finally, there is you. You feel very far away from the dangers of the winter. You feel like you are standing in the very heart of safety. The work of building the walls is finally done. You take a deep breath, and for the first time today, the air you breathe feels a little bit warmer. You have turned a skeleton into a living home. You have used the buffalo and the cedar to create a space where the winter cannot reach you. You stand in the center of the floor, looking around at the soft, pale walls, and you feel a great sense of pride. You are ready to start the fire. You are ready to start the long night. The sun is finally dropped below the edge of the world, leaving behind a sky of bruised purple and deep blue. Now that the inner walls are finished, you step back outside into the biting air. The wind is coming structured, and it carries a new cargo, snow. It is not a heavy blizzard yet, but the white flakes are beginning to gather in the folds of the grass. In the history of the plains, the people knew that snow was not just a cold nuisance. If you knew how to use it, snow could be one of your best friends. It is a natural blanket that holds the heat of the earth inside. You pick up a large, flat tool made from the shoulder bone of a buffalo. This is your micro-history detail for this cold arrowbone spade. It is wide and slightly curved with a handle that has been wrapped in rough leather to give you a better grip. You use this spade to begin the work of banking. You walk around the base of the teepee, scooping up the loose dry snow and piling it against the bottom of the leather cover. You are building a thick white wall that circles the entire house. A simple historical fact about banking is that it serves two purposes. First, it acts like a heavy weight that holds the bottom of the skins firmly against the frozen ground, so the wind cannot lift them. Second, it blocks every tiny hole where the freezing air might try to whistle in. Snow is full of tiny pockets of air, which makes it a wonderful insulator. By piling the snow a foot or two high against the leather, you are creating a seal that keeps the dead air space inside the walls perfectly still. You move slowly, your breath coming in thick clouds that match the color of the snow. Each scoop of the bone spade makes a soft shush sound as it slides through the drifts. You push the snow tight against the buffalo hide. You can feel the resistance of the leather. It is stretched so tight that it feels like pushing against a drum. You make sure the snow wall is even all the way around. You pay special attention to the side where the wind is hitting the hardest. On that side, you build the snowbank even higher, creating a drift that will guide the wind up and over the house. The work is repetitive and quiet. You stop for a moment to rest your back. The world is becoming white. The dark shapes of the other teepees in the camp now have bright white skirts around their bases. The sound of the wind is changing. Instead of the sharp whack of the wind hitting the leather, you hear a softer, muffled sound as the wind brushes against the snowbanks. You look down at your boots, which are now covered in a fine white powder. In this moment of stillness, you feel like the only person awake in a world of ice. The silence is so heavy it feels like a weight on your shoulders, but it is a peaceful weight. You are tucked into the landscape, becoming part of the winter instead of a victim of it. You finish the circle and come back to the door. The door is a separate flap of leather that hangs over the opening. You make sure the snow is cleared away from the entrance so you don't trip, but you pile it extra thick on either side of the opening to create a small sheltered hallway. Some families, when the snow gets very deep, will even dig a small tunnel through the drifts to reach the door. This keeps the wind from blowing directly into the living space when someone enters. It is a clever way to use the very thing that is trying to freeze you to keep yourself warm. You use the bone spade to pat the snow down firmly. You want it to be packed tight so the wind doesn't blow it away. As the night goes on and the temperature drops even further, this snowbank will freeze into a solid wall of ice. It will become a hard, protective shell. You think about how strange it is that something so cold can help keep a person so warm. It is the wisdom of the ancestors knowing that nature always provides the answer if you look closely enough. The snow is falling harder now, the flakes getting larger and wetter. They stick to your eyelashes and the fur of your collar. You can feel the dampness starting to soak into your outer wrap, and you know it is time to go back inside. You give the snow wall one last look. It is smooth and white, glowing faintly in the starlight. It looks like a sturdy foundation for your leather home. The teepee no longer looks like it is just sitting on top of the grass. It looks like it is rooted deep into the frozen earth. You shake the snow off your spade and lean it against the poles near the door. You brush the white powder off your leggings and your sleeves, making sure you don't carry the moisture inside where it will melt. Your hands are glowing red from the cold, and your fingers are stiff, but you feel a sense of completion. The outer defenses are ready. The wind can howl and the snow can pile up, but your walls are sealed. As you lift the door flap, a small puff of relatively warm air hits your face. It smells of the dry cedar and the tanned skins. It is an invitation to come in and rest. You step through the opening and drop the flap behind you. Immediately, the sound of the wind vanishes. The silence inside is deep and warm. You have built a fortress out of trees, skins, and snow. You are safe. You are ready to move from the work of the structure to the work of the fire. You take a moment to breathe in the still air, grateful for the thick white wall you just built between yourself and the wild night. You stand in the center of your home and look up. High above, where the cedar poles cross and point toward the stars, there is a large opening. This is the eye of the teepee, the place where the house breathes. To control this breath, you must master the smoke flaps. These are two large triangular ears of leather, attached to the very top of the outer cover. In the history of the plains, These flaps were the most important part of the house's temperature control. They are like the valves of a great engine, letting the smoke out while keeping the warmth and the rain from coming in. You step outside once more to adjust them before the night settles in completely. To move these heavy leather ears, you use two long, thin poles called flap poles. These poles are not tied to the frame. They sit in small pockets at the very corners of the flaps. This is our micro-history detail for this task. The flap pockets. These are extra thick patches of buffalo hide sewn onto the corners of the smoke flaps to make sure the poles don't poke through the leather when the wind is blowing hard. You grab the bottom of one flap pole and move it slowly in a wide circle. As you move the pole, the leather ear at the top swings around. You are watching the wind. If the wind is coming from the north, you move the flaps so they stand like a wall against the north, creating a quiet space over the smoke hole. This creates a chimney effect. The wind blowing over the top of the flaps pulls the air up from inside the house, dragging the smoke away from your eyes and up into the sky. If the wind changes, you must change the flaps. If you don't, the wind will blow the smoke back down into the teepee, making it impossible to breathe. You adjust the second flap, overlapping them just a little bit. It is a delicate job. You want the opening to be big enough for the smoke to escape, but small enough to keep the heat from rushing out too fast. In the old stories, the women were said to be able to tell the direction of the wind just by the sound it made against these flaps. They could adjust them in the middle of a dark night without even looking, reaching out into the cold to guide the breath of the house. The leather of the flaps is heavy and stiff with frost. It makes a dry, cracking sound as it moves, like a giant bird shaking its wings. You feel the vibration of the wind traveling down the pole and into your hands. You pause and look up at the very tip of your home. The moon has risen, and it casts a silver light on the tops of the poles. From down here, the teepee looks like it is talking to the sky. The smoke flaps reach up like open hands. In this moment of quiet, you feel the height of the house. It is a tall, proud thing. The silence is only broken by the soft tap-tap of the flap poles against the leather. You feel a deep sense of order. Everything has a purpose. The snow at the bottom keeps the cold out, and the flaps at the top let the old air out. It is a perfect circle of movement. You move to the other side of the house to check the second flap. You want to make sure it is angled just right to catch the rising heat. This is a simple historical fact. If a heavy rain or snow comes, you can close the flaps completely, overlapping them like the scales of a fish. This makes the top of the teepee waterproof. Even in a massive storm, you can stay dry and warm inside, listening to the rain hit the leather while you sit by the fire. You are the master of your own weather. As you finish the adjustment, you pull the bottom of the flap poles tight and tuck them into the heavy snowbank you built earlier. This holds them steady so the wind doesn't knock them over. You look up one last time. The opening is perfect. You can see one bright star shining exactly in the middle of the smoke hole. It is like a tiny lamp hanging in the sky, watching over your home. The cold is deeper now, and the wind is starting to bite through your thickest layers. Your fingers are numb, and the tip of your nose feels like ice. But the ears of your house are set. You have given the fire a path to breathe. Without this work, the fire would be a danger, filling the room with thick grey clouds. With this work, the fire will be a friend, providing light and life through the long dark shift of the winter night. You turn back toward the door, your boots crunching on the frozen crust of the snow. You feel a sense of relief. The house is now a complete system. It has feet rooted in the earth, walls to hold back the wind, and an eye to watch the stars. You lift the heavy door flap and step back into the stillness. The air inside is waiting for the first spark. You look up from the inside and see the pale glow of the moon through the smoke hole. The flaps are doing their job, standing guard against the wind. You are ready to light the heart of the home. You kneel in the very center of the teepee, on the bare, dark earth. This is the heart of the house. Everything you have done today, gathering the poles, stretching the skins, banking the snow, and setting the smoke flaps, was done for this moment. A home on the plains without a fire is just a cold tent. But with a fire, it becomes a sanctuary. In the history of the Great Plains, the fire was more than just heat. It was a sacred guest. You treat the wood and the flames with great respect, for they are what keep the night shift from becoming a frozen nightmare. You have a small bundle of very dry grass and thin twigs of willow. This is your tinder. You place it carefully in a small circle of stones you have arranged on the ground. To start the flame, you use a special tool. This is our microhistory detail, the fire drill. It is a simple piece of hardwood and a flat board of softer wood. You place the tip of the stick into a small notch in the board and begin to spin it rapidly between your palms. It is a slow, steady rhythm. You feel the heat building in the wood. You smell a tiny hint of smoke, a sharp, toasted scent. Suddenly, a tiny black speck of glowing dust falls into the dry grass. You lean in close and blow very gently, your breath like a soft summer breeze. The tiny spark catches a blade of grass. It turns from orange to a bright, dancing yellow. You add a few more twigs, watching as the flame grows stronger. At first, the fire is small and shy, but soon it begins to crackle and pop. The light it casts is wonderful. It hits the pale cedar poles and makes them glow like gold. It reflects off the smooth buffalo skins of the inner lining, turning the whole room into a warm amber cave. You watch as the first thin ribbon of blue smoke rises straight up. Because you set the smoke flats correctly, the smoke doesn't spread out, it travels like a straight line toward the hole in the roof and vanishes into the night. A simple historical fact about these fires is that they were kept very small. You do not need a roaring bonfire to stay warm in a teepee because of the dead airspace in the walls and the thick buffalo hides. A small fire, about the size of a dinner plate, is enough to raise the temperature inside by 20 or 30 degrees. This is very clever because it saves wood, which is hard to find on the treeless plains. It also means you don't have to spend the whole night feeding the flames. You can sit close to it, and the heat will wrap around you like a heavy blanket. You add a slightly larger piece of wood, a branch of dried cottonwood. You sit back on your heels and watch the flames. The silence inside the house has changed. It is no longer a dead silence. It is filled with the friendly sound of the wood burning. You hear the tiny tick-tick-tick of the sap heating up, and the soft whoosh of the air being drawn into the fire from the bottom of the walls. In this moment of reflection, you feel the shift in your soul. The outside world, with its biting wind and freezing snow, feels very far away. The fire has created a circle of safety. You look at the way the light dances on your hands, and you feel a deep sense of gratitude. The night is no longer an enemy. It is just a time to be still and warm. The fire does more than just warm your skin. It changes the very air you breathe. The smell of the wood smoke is clean and honest. It fills the teepee, mixing with the scent of the tanned leather and the dried grass on the floor. It is the smell of home. You notice how the shadows of the poles grow long and move across the walls as the flames flicker. It is like a silent play being performed just for you. You feel the tension in your shoulders, which has been there all day while you worked in the cold, finally start to melt away. Your muscles begin to relax in the gentle heat. You reach for a small pot of water and set it near the edge of the stones. Soon the water will begin to bubble, and the steam will add a little moisture to the air. This is part of the night shift rhythm. The fire provides the light to see, the heat to stay alive, and the power to cook your food. You realize that without this small circle of orange light, life on the plains would be impossible. The fire is the center of the universe for this family. For this night, you look up at the smoke hole. You can no longer see the stars because the golden light of the fire is too bright inside. The top of the teepee acts like a giant chimney, and you can see the sparks from your fire floating up and out into the dark sky. They look like tiny stars of your own making, rising up to join the ones in the heavens. It is a beautiful sight. It reminds you that you are connected to the world outside, even while you are protected from it. The temperature inside is rising steadily. You can feel the warmth on your face and your chest. You pull off your heavy outer wrap and lay it on the floor mats. For the first time since the sun went down, you are comfortable. The fire is steady and strong. It doesn't need much help now. It has taken hold of the wood and is settled in for the long haul. You have succeeded. You have brought the sun inside your home. You take a small stick and poke at the glowing coals, moving them just a little to make sure the air can reach the center. The coals are a deep, pulsing red, like the heart of a living thing. They hold the most heat, and they will stay warm long after the flames die down. You know that, as long as those coals are glowing, you are safe from the frost. You settle into your spot on the floor, the warmth soaking into your bones, and you listen to the night wind humming against the leather walls. The fire is lit, the house is breathing, and the long cold watch of the winter night has truly begun. Even though your fire is burning brightly, there is a secret to keeping it strong that most people cannot see from the outside. A fire is like a person. It needs to breathe. In a small, tight home like a teepee, the fire can sometimes use up all the fresh air, or it can struggle to stay lit if the door is shut tight against the snow. To solve this, the people of the plains developed a very clever trick. You kneel by the edge of the fire pit and look at a small opening in the ground. This is an air tunnel. In the history of the Great Plains, some families would dig specialized tunnels that led from the outside of the teepee, under the snow and the earth, directly to the base of the fire. This is a simple historical fact. These tunnels allowed the fire to draw in fresh, cold oxygen from the outside without creating a cold draft across the floor where people were sleeping. It worked like a modern furnace pipe. The fire stayed hot and hungry, but the rest of the room stayed still and warm. You reach down and clear away a few stray pieces of dry grass from the mouth of the tunnel. This brings us to our micro-history detail, the fire feeder. This was often a hollowed-out log or a series of flat stones leaning against each other to create a protected path for the air. You can feel a very faint, cool movement of air coming through the opening. It isn't a blast of wind, it is just a gentle pull. When you hold a tiny piece of downy feather near the hole, it leans toward the flames. The fire is literally inhaling the winter air to stay alive. Without this tunnel, the air inside the teepee would have to come from the door or from under the bottom of the skins. That would mean a cold wind would always be blowing across your feet while you try to rest. But because the air comes up from the ground right at the fire's feet, the cold is used up by the flames before it can ever reach you. It is a brilliant piece of engineering. It shows that the night shift was not just about working hard, but about working in a way that was smart and balanced with nature. You lean back and watch the flames dance. The sound of the air tunnel is a very soft, low whistle, like the sound of someone breathing in their sleep. It is a comforting noise. It tells you that the system is working. You look around at the base of the walls where the inner lining meets the ground. Because of the air tunnel, you don't feel any shivering cold air moving past your ankles. The air in the room is heavy and warm, held in place by the thick buffalo hides. You feel like you're sitting in a warm pool of water, even though just a few feet away, the world is frozen solid. You think about the work it took to dig this tunnel. It had to be done before the ground froze as hard as iron. It was a task for the autumn, a bit of looking ahead to the long dark nights. Everything in this house is about planning. You don't just wait for the cold to arrive and then try to hide from it. You prepare the ground, the wood, and the air itself. You are the architect of your own comfort. The fire grows a little brighter as a fresh puff of air comes through the tunnel. The flames turn from a deep orange to a sharp, brilliant white at the base. This is the hottest part of the fire. It is where the real work of heating the house happens. You can feel the heat radiating outward, hitting the leather walls and bouncing back toward the center. The teepee is like a giant mirror for heat, and you are standing right in the middle of the reflection. You take a small stone and move it slightly to adjust the opening of the air feeder. By making the hole smaller or larger, you can control how fast the fire burns. It is like having a dial on a heater. If you want to sleep, you make the hole small so the fire burns slowly and lasts a long time. If you are cold and want a quick burst of warmth, you open it up and let the fire drink as much air as it wants. You are the master of the flame's breath. You look up at the smoke hole again. You can see the smoke moving in a steady, thin line. It doesn't wobble or swirl around the room. It has a purpose. It is being pushed up by the fresh air coming in from below. The air tunnel and the smoke hole are two ends of the same straw. One pulls the life in, and the other lets the waste out. It is a perfect, silent machine made of nothing but dirt, wood, and leather. You feel a deep sense of peace. The night shift is usually a time of worry for those who are not prepared, but for you, it is a time of quiet pride. You have built a home that works with the physics of the world. You have found a way to let the freezing winter wind actually help your fire grow stronger. It is a beautiful irony. The very thing that wants to freeze you is being used to keep you warm. You settle back onto your buffalo robe, your back against the soft lining. The warmth of the fire is steady and dependable. You listen to the soft whistle of the air tunnel and the crackle of the wood. The room is filled with a golden light that seems to push the dark corners even further away. You have given your fire the breath it needs. Now, you can let your own breath slow down. You are safe, you are warm, and the heart of your home is beating strong. As the night grows deeper and the fire begins to settle into a steady glow, you turn your attention to the place where you will sleep. Even with a good fire, the ground of the Great Plains can be a thief. It is always trying to steal the warmth from your body. In the history of the plains, the people knew that sleeping directly on the frozen earth was a mistake. To fight this, they used a very clever method of heating their beds from below. You reach for several large, smooth stones that have been sitting near the edge of the fire pit for several hours. These stones are now very hot. They have soaked up the heat from the flames until they feel like they are holding a piece of the sun inside them. This brings us to our microhistory detail, the bed warmer stones. You don't just throw these hot rocks under your blankets. Instead, you wrap them carefully in scraps of thick buffalo hide. The leather protects you from the sharp heat, so you don't get burned, but it allows the warmth to leak out slowly and steadily all through the night. It is like a radiator made of stone and skin. You move to the back of the teepee, away from the door, where it is most sheltered. You use a small wooden tool to dig a shallow hole in the dirt, right where your hips and back will rest. You place the wrapped stones into this hole and cover them with a thin layer of dry earth. This is a simple historical fact. By burying the stones, you are using the ground as a battery. The earth will hold that heat and release it directly into your mattress of dried grass and furs. It means that even if the fire goes out in the middle of the night, the ground beneath you will stay warm until the morning. You begin to layer your bed. First, you lay down a thick mat of woven willow branches. This keeps you off the damp ground. On top of that, you pile a thick layer of soft, dry grass. Finally, you lay down your heaviest buffalo robes. You can feel the warmth from the buried stones already starting to rise through the layers. It feels like a gentle, pulsing heat. It is a deep, bone-warming feeling that makes your tired muscles feel heavy and relaxed. You sit down on your bed for a moment to test it. The teepee is very quiet now. The only sound is the low, rhythmic breathing of the fire and the occasional pop of a spark. You look around at the golden walls. You feel like you are sitting in the middle of a warm, secret world. Outside, the wind is still pushing against the leather, but inside, you have created a place of perfect comfort. In this moment of stillness, you realize how much wisdom it takes to be truly warm. It isn't just about having a big fire. It is about knowing how to trap that heat and put it exactly where you need it. You lay back and close your eyes for a second. The heat from the stones is exactly where your lower back touches the bed. It feels like a warm hand is resting against you. This night shift task is one of the most important for survival. If a person gets too cold during the night, their body becomes weak and they can get sick. But by using the stones, you ensure that your body can rest and heal from the hard work of the day. You are taking care of yourself so you can be strong for tomorrow. You think about the stones themselves. They came from a riverbed many miles away. They were shaped by water over thousands of years, and now they are serving a new purpose. They are your silent guardians through the dark. You can feel the weight of the buffalo robes on top of you. They are heavy and comforting, like a shield. Between the hot stones below and the thick fur above, you are in a sandwich of warmth. The winter cannot reach you here. You reach out and touch the edge of the leather wrap around one of the stones. It feels tough and warm. This system of heating is so effective that it can keep a bed warm for 6 or 7 hours. It is much better than just huddling near the fire because you don't have to keep waking up to add wood. You can truly sleep knowing that the earth itself is keeping you safe. The air in the teepee is the perfect temperature now. It is cool enough to breathe easily, but warm enough that you don't shiver. The dead air space in the walls is doing its job, and the snowbank outside is holding the world still. You feel a deep sense of satisfaction. You have used the wood, the skin, the snow, the air, and the stones to build a perfect system of survival. You take a deep breath of the smoky air and settle deeper into the furs. The night shift continues outside, but in here, the work is done. You are wrapped in the wisdom of your people and the warmth of the earth. You watch the last few flames dance on the ceiling poles, their shadows growing softer and slower. You are ready for the long sleep. The buried stones are glowing with a heat you can feel but not see, a secret warmth that will carry you all the way to the dawn. Sometimes the work of the night shift means you have to leave the warmth of your home. Perhaps you need to check on the horses, or maybe a neighbor needs help with a heavy task. In the world of the Great Plains, you cannot just turn on a light or carry a battery. But the people found a way to take the heart of the home and the fire with them. You reach into the edge of the fire pit and find a few glowing red coals. They are small, about the size of a walnut, but they are incredibly hot. To carry these coals through the freezing wind, you use a very special tool. This is our microhistory detail, the fire horn. This is a large horn from the buffalo that has been hollowed out. In the history of the plains, this was the first portable heater. You line the bottom of the horn with a layer of damp, decayed wood or moss. This layer acts like a bed for the coals. It stops the horn from getting too hot and burning your hand, and it provides just enough fuel to keep the coal breathing without letting it turn into a flame. You carefully place 2 or 3 glowing coals into the horn. Then, you use a plug made of damp clay or a thick piece of wood to seal the end. A simple historical fact about the fire horn is that it can keep a coal alive for many hours, sometimes even a whole day. Because the horn is thick and the clay plug limits the air, the coal burns very, very slowly. It stays in a state of deep sleep. When you reach your destination, you can open the horn, blow on the coal, and start a new fire in just a few minutes. You step outside the teepee door, and the cold hits you like a physical wall. The wind is sharp and tries to pull the breath right out of your lungs, but as you walk through the dark, you feel a small, steady heat pressing against your side. You carry the fire horn tucked into your belt or held close to your chest. The heat from the horn soaks through your thick buffalo robe and reaches your skin. It is like carrying a tiny, private sun. It keeps you cool warm even when the air around you is 30 degrees below zero. The world outside is a study in black and white. The snow reflects the pale light of the stars, making the ground look like it is glowing with its own cold light. You stop for a moment and look at the camp. The teepees look like giant, glowing lanterns. The light from the fires inside makes the leather covers shine with a soft orange light. In the silence, you can hear the snow hitting your robe with a tiny click-click sound. It is so cold that the snow doesn't melt on your clothes. It just bounces off like sand. You are the only thing moving in this frozen world, and the only reason you can move is the tiny bit of fire you are carrying in your hand. You look down at the fire horn. You can see a tiny, faint wisp of smoke escaping from the edge of the plug. It smells of old wood and earth. This smell is a comfort. It reminds you that the fire is still there, waiting. You think about how clever this system is. You have taken a part of the animal, the horn, and a part of the earth, the clay, to protect the most important thing you own. It is a reminder that you are never truly alone in the dark, as long as you have the fire. Walking through the deep snow is hard work. Your legs feel heavy, and your breath comes in big, white puffs. But the warmth from the horn keeps your heart steady. You feel a sense of power. While the winter is trying to turn everything into ice, you are carrying the power of heat through the middle of it. You are the guardian of the spot. You move carefully, making sure you don't trip or drop the horn. If the clay plug fell out, the coal might go out in the snow, and you would lose your protection. You reach the edge of the camp where the horses are gathered in a sheltered hollow. They are standing close together, their heads down, their breath making a thick fog in the air. You check their tethers and make sure they are safe from the wind. Even out here, away from the walls of your home, you feel okay. The fire horn is like a promise. It says that no matter how far you go into the cold, you have the means to bring the warmth back. As you finish your check, you turn back toward the lights of the village. The wind is at your back now, pushing you along the path you made earlier. You feel the heat of the buffalo horn against your ribs. It has warmed up even more since you left the house. The leather of your robe has trapped that heat against your body, creating a little pocket of summer inside your clothes. It is a wonderful feeling. It makes the vast freezing plains feel a little less empty. You reach your door and step back into the still air of the teepee. You take the fire horn from your belt and carefully remove the plug. You look inside and see the coal is still a deep, pulsing red. It is still alive. You place the coal back into the main fire pit, where it joins the other embers. You have completed your journey, and you have brought the fire back home. You sit down and rub your hands together. They are cold, but your body is still warm. You think about the night shift and how it requires this constant attention to detail. You cannot be lazy with the fire. You have to carry it, feed it, and protect it. In return, it keeps the winter from winning. You settle back into your furs, the smell of the fire horn still lingering on your hands. And you listen to the wind outside. You have faced the dark and the ice, and you have come back warm. The spark is safe. You are safe. You look at the wood pile near the door and see that it is getting low. On the Great Plains, finding wood is not as easy as it is in the thick forests of the east. In many places, you can walk for a whole day and not see a single tall tree. The land is a giant carpet of grass that rolls on forever. Because of this, the night shift requires you to be very clever about what you burn. You cannot always rely on cedar or cottonwood to keep you warm. You must look to the animal that lives on the grass to provide your heat. You pick up a large woven basket and step out into the cold grey light of the afternoon. You're looking for something the people call buffalo chips. A simple historical fact about life on the plains is that dried buffalo droppings were the primary fuel for thousands of years. While it might sound strange to someone from a different place, these chips were a clean, reliable, and wonderful source of energy. Because the buffalo eat only the natural grasses of the plains, their dried waste is basically just tightly packed, recycled plants. It doesn't smell bad when it burns. Instead, it has a sweet, earthy scent that reminds you of a summer field. You walk across the frozen ground, your eyes scanning the white snow and the yellow grass. You see a dark, round shape poking through a drift. You bend down and pick it up. It is very light and very dry. The wind and the sun have taken all the moisture out of it, leaving behind a hard grey disc that feels like a piece of thick cork. This is your fuel. You toss it into the basket and keep moving. You need a lot of these to last through the long night. The colder the weather, the more chips you need to gather. As you walk further away from the camp, the world feels very empty. You stop for a moment and stand perfectly still. There is no sound at all. The wind has died down for a minute, and the silence is so deep it makes your ears ring. You look at the horizon, where the white earth meets the pale sky. There are no houses, no roads, and no trees to break the line. You realize that you are standing in a place where millions of buffalo have walked for centuries. Every chip you find is a tiny piece of that history. In this moment of reflection, you feel the scale of the plains. You feel small, but you also feel like you belong here. You are part of the cycle of the grass and the buffalo. You find a spot where a large herd must have rested during the autumn. The ground is covered in fuel. You work quickly now, filling your basket to the top. Your hands are cold, but the work keeps your blood moving. You notice that the chips are very clean. They don't stick to your hands or leave a mess. They are just like pieces of very old, dry wood. You think about how lucky it is that the buffalo provide everything: the walls of your house, the bed you sleep on, the food you eat, and even the fire that keeps you alive. Once your basket is full, you head back toward the teepee. You can see the thin trails of blue smoke rising from the other homes in the camp. Each one is a sign of a family staying warm. When you get inside, you place the basket near the fire pit. You reach for a different kind of fuel to get the fire moving faster. This is our micro-history detail, the grass twist. When wood or chips are slow to catch, you take a large handful of long, dry prairie grass and twist it tightly together until it looks like a piece of thick rope. This makes the grass burn much slower than a loose pile would. It creates a bright, hot flame that can help the buffalo chips start to glow. You place 2 of these grass twists on the embers and watch them catch. The flames are orange and yellow, dancing quickly. Then you lay the buffalo chips on top. At first, the chips don't flame up like wood does. Instead, they begin to glow a deep, steady red. This is the secret of the buffalo chip. It burns like coal. It provides a very steady, even heat that lasts for a long time. It doesn't spark or pop like cedar wood, so you don't have to worry about a stray spark landing on your furs. It is a very safe and quiet fire. The smell fills the teepee. It is a smoky, grassy smell that is very pleasant. It makes you feel like you are sitting in a warm barn on a summer evening. The heat from the chips is intense. You can feel it pushing back the cold air near the floor. You hold your hands over the stones, and you feel the warmth soaking into your skin. You have turned the waste of the plains into the life of your home. It is a beautiful bit of magic. You sit back and look at your basket. You have enough fuel now for several hours. You know that out on the dark plains, the wind is starting to pick up again. But in here, the glowing chips are a steady shield. You don't need a forest to be warm. You only need to know where to look. The night shift is easier when you understand that the land always gives you what you need, even if it doesn't look like much at first. You take one of the remaining chips and break it in half. You can see the tiny bits of dried grass and wild flowers inside it, pressed tight by the weight of the buffalo. It is a tiny package of summer saved up for the winter. You place the pieces on the fire and watch the edges start to turn white and orange. The light is soft and golden, making the leather walls of your home feel thick and strong. You have done your work. You have gathered the sun from the grass and brought it inside. You are ready for the dark. The sun has been gone for a long time now, and the world outside the teepee has turned into a place of deep shadows and biting frost. Even with the steady glow of the buffalo chips in the fire pit, there is one more layer of protection you need before you can truly say you are ready for the night. You reach for your winter robe. This is not just a piece of clothing, it is your most important tool for survival. In the history of the Great Plains, the winter robe was a person's constant companion, a portable house that you wore on your back. A simple historical fact about these robes is that they were always harvested from the buffalo during the coldest months of the year. During the summer, a buffalo has a thin, light coat so it doesn't get too hot under the sun. But as the autumn ends, the animal grows a second, much thicker layer of hair. This winter fur is incredibly dense and curly. It is so thick that snow can sit on a buffalo's back for hours without melting, because the animal's body heat cannot escape through the fur. When you wear a robe made from this winter skin, you are borrowing that same incredible power to stay warm. You pick up the robe and feel its weight. It is very heavy, like a large furry carpet. You don't just throw it over your shoulders, you wrap yourself in it with a specific movement. This brings us to our microhistory detail, the fur-in rule. When it is truly freezing outside, you do not wear the robe with the pretty painted leather on the inside. You wear it with the fur facing toward your body. By putting the fur against your skin or your inner clothes, the curly hair traps the heat from your body and holds it right next to you. The smooth leather on the outside acts like a shield, stopping the wind from blowing through the hair. As you pull the heavy robe around your shoulders, you can feel the warmth almost instantly. It is like stepping into a warm bath. The weight of the robe is comforting. It feels like a heavy hand pressing down on you, telling you that you are safe. You pull the edges together across your chest, overlapping them so that no cold air can find a gap. You look down at the dark, curly fur peeking out from the edges. It is coarse and strong, smelling of wood smoke and the dry, clean scent of the animal. You walk toward the door and step outside for a moment, just to feel the difference. The wind is howling male, whipping the snow into white swirls that dance across the camp. The cold is intense, the kind of cold that makes the wood of the teepee poles groan and the earth crack. But inside your robe, you feel like you are in a different world. You can feel the freezing wind hitting the leather on your back, but your chest and arms stay perfectly warm. In this moment of stillness, you stand in the middle of the storm and feel a sense of peace. You are like a rock in a river. The cold flows all around you, but it cannot get inside. You listen to the hiss of the snow against the leather and marvel at how a simple animal skin can be so powerful. You look at the other people moving through the camp. Everyone is wrapped in these great dark robes. From a distance, in the dim starlight, the people look like buffalo themselves, moving slowly and steadily through the drifts. There is a quiet dignity in the way the robe makes you move. You cannot rush or run easily while wearing it. You must walk with a slow, heavy pace. It forces you to be calm, to save your energy, and to respect the power of the winter. You reach up and pull a part of the robe over your head like a hood. The long fur tickles your cheeks and forehead. It blocks the wind from your ears and keeps your breath warm. Inside this little cocoon of fur, the sound of the wind becomes a distant hum. You feel completely protected. This robe is your bed at night, your coat during the day, and your shield during a blizzard. It is the most valuable thing you own. You think about the work that went into making this robe soft. After the skin was taken from the buffalo, it had to be scraped and rubbed for many days. If it wasn't worked correctly, the leather would be as stiff as a board, making it impossible to wrap around your body. But this robe is as soft as a piece of thick cloth. You can move your arms and bend your waist easily. This softness is the result of the night shift work of the women, who spent their evenings by the fire, softening the leather with stones and bone tools. The cold is trying to find a way in through your boots, so you turn back toward the teepee. As you step through the door and the heat of the fire hits you, you don't immediately take the robe off. You let it trap the heat from the fire, soaking it up like a sponge. Later, when you lie down to sleep, the robe will still be holding that warmth, keeping you cozy until the morning. You sit down by the fire and loosen the robe just a little. The warmth inside the fur is so steady that you begin to feel sleepy. You run your hand over the curly hair once more. Each strand of fur is a tiny miracle of nature. Together, they form a wall that the winter cannot break. You feel a deep sense of gratitude for the buffalo. It gave its life so that you could have this warmth. You settle back into your spot, the heavy weight of the robe keeping you grounded and safe, ready to face the rest of the long, dark watch. The fire has settled into a deep, pulsing red. You are sitting on your bed of willow and grass, wrapped in your heavy buffalo robe. You have already learned the fur-in rule. But now, as the night turns truly bitter, you begin to understand the magic of how it works. You reach down and slide your hand between your chest and the robe. The air in there is hot. It feels almost like you are touching someone else's skin. This is the goal of the night shift, to create a tiny, private summer that stays with you no matter how hard the wind blows outside. A simple historical fact about buffalo fur is that it is made of two different types of hair. There is the long, coarse hair that you see on the outside, which helps the rain and snow slide off. But underneath that is a layer of down hair. This down is very fine, soft and curly. It is much better at holding heat than the hair of a horse or a deer. When you wear this fur against your skin, those millions of tiny curly hairs create a forest of trapped air. Because your body is warm, it heats up that air. Because the hairs are so close together, the warm air cannot escape. It stays right there, touching you, keeping you alive. You look at your arm. You are wearing a shirt made of soft deerskin, but where the shirt ends, the buffalo fur begins. This brings us to a micro-history detail, the grease rub. To help the heat stay in even better, many people would rub a little bit of buffalo fat or oil onto their skin before the sun went down. This oil helps the skin hold onto its own moisture and heat. It acts like a very thin, second skin that stops the cold from biting into your flesh. It smells a little bit like the earth and the fire, a smell that you have grown to love because it means protection. You lean back and pull the robe higher until it touches your chin. You can feel the soft tickle of the downy fur against your neck. The teepee is very still. You can hear the fire breathing, a soft rhythmic sound of the air moving through the tunnel and up through the coals. Outside, the world is in a deep freeze. You can hear the occasional crack of the earth or a nearby creak as the water turns to solid ice. It is a sound like a distant gunshot. It reminds you of how powerful the cold really is. It is out there, trying to find a way in. It searches for a gap in the leather or a hole in your clothes. But here, inside your robe, you are winning. In this moment of quiet, you feel a deep sense of triumph. You are a small, soft human, but you have used the gifts of the buffalo to become stronger than the winter. You think about how your ancestors discovered these tricks. They must have watched the buffalo standing in the middle of a blizzard, looking calm and comfortable while the snow piled up on their humps. They must have realized that the secret was in the fur. By turning that fur inward, you are not just wearing a coat. You are using thousands of years of animal wisdom. You are wearing the result of nature's own engineering. You move your legs slightly under the robe. You can feel the heat moving with you. It doesn't matter if you turn to the left or the right, the warmth stays trapped in the fur. This is why the robe is so much better than a modern blanket. A blanket is often thin and lets the air move through it. But the buffalo skin is thick leather. It is a wall. The heat stays in and the cold stays out. It is that simple and that perfect. You reach out and touch the inner lining of the teepee again. It is cool, but the air inside the room is comfortable. You realize that you are living inside a series of circles. The first circle is your own skin, kept warm by the grease. The second circle is the buffalo fur, trapping your body heat. The third circle is your clothing. The fourth circle is the inner lining of the teepee. The fifth circle is the heavy outer cover. And the final circle is the bank of snow outside. Each circle is a layer of protection. You are at the very center of this system, safe and snug. You watch a small spark rise from the fire. It travels up through the dark space toward the smoke hole. You feel the weight of the robe on your chest. It is a heavy, honest weight. It reminds you that you are grounded to the earth. You are not floating or drifting. You are tucked into the land. The night shift is a time for this kind of thinking, realizing how everything fits together to keep life going when the sun is away. Your eyes begin to feel heavy. The heat from the buried stones under your bed is rising up through the grass, meeting the heat trapped in your buffalo robe. You are caught between two layers of warmth. Your breathing slows down, matching the steady rhythm of the fire. You know that even if the fire dies down to just a few glowing coals, your robe will keep you warm until the first light of morning touches the top of the poles. You give the robe one last pull, tucking it under your feet so no cold air can sneak in from the bottom. You are a warm island in a sea of ice. You close your eyes, the smell of the fur and the wood smoke filling your senses. You are part of the night shift, the guardian of your own warmth. And tonight, the winter has no power over you. You drift off to the sound of the wind, safe inside your circle of fur. The heat of the fire is a wonderful thing, but it is only half of what you need to survive the night shift. To keep your body warm from the inside out, you need fuel for your own internal fire. On the Great Plains, where the winter can last for many months, the people developed the perfect cold weather food. You reach for a small, heavy leather bag hanging from one of the cedar poles. Inside is a supply of pemmican. A simple historical fact about pemmican is that it is one of the most concentrated foods ever made. It was the energy bar of the plains, designed to last for years without spoiling. It didn't matter if it was frozen or left in the sun, pemmican stayed good to eat. This was vital because, during a deep winter blizzard, you might not be able to go out and hunt for days. Having this food meant you were never truly in danger of starving. It provided the high calories your body needed to create heat. When you were cold, your body burns energy much faster just to keep your heart beating and your blood moving. Pemmican gave you that energy in every bite. You open the bag and take out a small piece. It is dark and hard, looking almost like a piece of chocolate or a small brick. This brings us to our microhistory detail, the pemmican pounder. To make this food, the women would take lean buffalo meat that had been dried in the sun until it was brittle. They would use a heavy stone tool, the pounder, to crush the meat into a fine powder. This powder was then mixed with melted buffalo fat and dried berries like choke cherries or juneberries. The fat is the secret ingredient. It acts as a preservative, sealing the meat away from the air so it cannot rot. You sit by the fire and begin to eat. The pemmican has a rich, deep flavor. It is salty from the meat, sweet from the berries, and very smooth because of the fat. It isn't something you eat quickly. You have to chew it slowly, letting it melt in your mouth. As you eat, you can almost feel the energy moving into your limbs. It is a heavy, satisfying feeling. In the history of the night shift, pemmican was what allowed people to work for hours in the sub-zero cold. 1 pound of this food has about 3,500 calories. That is more than most people today eat in a whole day. The teepee is filled with the quiet sound of your chewing. You look at the small leather bag and think about the effort that went into filling it. During the autumn, the whole village worked together to prepare this. It was a time of plenty, but everyone knew the hungry moon was coming. Every buffalo that was taken was treated with respect, and every bit of its energy was saved. In this moment of reflection, you feel the connection between the summer grass, the buffalo, and your own strength. The sun's energy went into the grass. The buffalo ate the grass, and now that energy is inside you, keeping you warm against the ice. You take a small sip of warm water from a horn cup. The water washes down the rich taste of the fat. You feel a warm glow in your stomach. This is the internal heater of the plains. While your buffalo robe protects you from the wind, the pemmican protects you from the weakness of the cold. It is a complete system. You realize that survival is not just about the walls around you. It is about the balance you keep with the land. You look at the berries in the pemmican. They are small, dark spots in the mixture. These berries provided vitamins that were hard to find in the winter when no fresh plants were growing. They kept the people healthy and their eyes sharp. The people of the plains were clever scientists. They knew exactly what the body needed to stay strong. They didn't have books, but they had thousands of years of experience passed down from parent to child. The fire flickers, casting a long shadow of your hand against the leather wall. You feel very strong tonight. The work you have done, the building, the fire starting, and now the eating has prepared you for anything the winter might throw at you. You are not a victim of the weather. You are a part of it. You are a living thing that knows how to thrive in the dark. You close the leather bag and tie it back onto the pole. It is a comforting sound, the soft clink of the bag hitting the wood. You know that even if the snow piles up over the door, you have enough sunshine in those bags to last for a long time. The pemmican is your insurance. It is the fuel for your journey through the night. You settle back onto your bed, feeling the combination of the external heat from the fire and the internal heat from the food. Your body feels heavy and content. The night shift is a time of waiting, and you are waiting in comfort. You listen to the wind again, but now it sounds like a song rather than a threat. You've eaten the strength of the plains, and that strength is now your own. You are ready to close your eyes and let the warmth carry you into sleep, knowing that your heart is well fed and your fire is steady. You sit in the golden light of the teepee, feeling the heavy, rich pemmican settling in your stomach. It is a slow, steady fuel that will keep your internal fire burning for hours. In the world of the night shift, eating is not just about stopping hunger, it is about keeping your blood moving. When the temperature outside drops to 30 degrees below zero, your body has to work very hard just to stay at the right temperature. This is a simple historical fact. The people of the plains ate much more fat in the winter than they did in the summer. Fat is the highest energy source in nature, and it is what the body uses to create heat. You reach for your water skin, which is made from a buffalo's stomach. It is hanging near the fire, so the water inside doesn't turn to a block of ice. This brings us to our microhistory detail, the horn spoon. You use a spoon carved from the thick black horn of a buffalo to scoop up the last bits of your meal. The horn is a clever material because it does not get hot like a metal spoon would, and it doesn't crack in the cold like some woods might. It is smooth against your lips, and it carries the faint, clean smell of the animal it came from. As you drink the warm water, you can feel the heat spreading through your chest. It is a wonderful sensation. You are no longer fighting the cold, you are ignoring it. Your body is doing its job, turning the dried meat and fat into the warmth that flows through your veins. You realize that you have become a small, self-contained heater. As long as you have pemmican and water, you can stand in the middle of a frozen field and feel like it is a spring day inside your clothes. The teepee is very quiet now, and the air is perfectly still. You take a moment to reflect on the silence. Outside, the great white silence of the plains is filled with the threat of the frost, but inside, the silence is a gift. It is the silence of safety. You listen to the soft crackle of the fire and the steady rhythm of your own breathing. You feel a deep connection to the generations of people who sat in this same spot, eating this same food and feeling this same warmth. You are part of a long chain of survival. Every bite you take is an act of defiance against the winter. You look at the walls of your home. The light from the fire makes the leather look like it is glowing from the inside. You can see the shadows of the grass outside pressing against the very bottom of the skins, held there by the snowbank. You are tucked into the earth, well fed and protected. The night shift is a time of great calm when you are prepared. You don't have to worry about the wind because you have built your walls well. You don't have to worry about the dark because you have your fire. And you don't have to worry about the cold because you have the strength of the buffalo inside you. You think about how different this feeling is from being cold. When you are cold, your body feels tight and small, like it is trying to hide from the air. But now with your stomach full of fat and berries, you feel big and relaxed. Your muscles are soft and your hands are steady. You reach out and touch the cedar pole next to you. It feels solid and real. You are grounded in this world. Eating for strength is a skill. You have learned to listen to what your body needs. In the summer, you might crave fresh greens or sweet fruit, but in the dark of winter, your body calls for the heavy, salty richness of the pemmican. It is the land telling you how to stay alive. You have listened to that voice, and it has rewarded you with a feeling of deep peace. You set your horn spoon down on a clean piece of leather. You are finished with your meal, but the meal is not finished with you. It will be working all through the night, keeping your heart strong while you sleep. You feel a wave of sleepiness wash over you, brought on by the warmth and the heavy food. It is a good sleepiness, the kind that comes after a long day of honest work. You look up at the smoke hole one last time before you lie down. The smoke is a thin, steady line vanishing into the black sky. You are the guardian of this little world, and you have done your job well. You have fed the fire, and you have fed yourself. The night shift continues outside, but in here, the watch is easy. You pull your buffalo robe up to your chin. The taste of the berries still faint on your tongue, and you let the warmth of the pemmican carry you into the deep, quiet dark. The night is at its deepest point now. This is the time when the stars are the brightest and the air is the coldest. Most of the camp is asleep, tucked away in their circles of fur and stone, but the night shift never truly stops. There are always chores that need to be done in the dark to make sure the morning is safe and easy. You push back your heavy robe and stand up. The air near the ceiling is very warm, but as you stand, you feel the cooler air near the floor. You move quietly, so you don't wake the others. In the history of the plains, the night was not just a time for sleep. It was a time for quiet work. You reach for a small torch made of tightly bound grass and dip it into the fire. This is your light for the tasks ahead. One of the most important jobs is checking the water. You walk to the large leather bag near the door. Even inside the teepee, a thin skin of ice can form on the surface of the water overnight. Use a small wooden stick to break the ice and clear it away. Having fresh water ready for the morning is a simple but vital part of the night's routine. Your microhistory detail for this hour is the ice pick. This isn't a metal tool like you might see today. It is a sharp, heavy piece of elk antler. The antler is very hard and does not shatter when you hit the ice. You use it to chip away at the frozen edges of the water bag. The sound of the chipping is sharp and rhythmic in the quiet room. Tink, tink, tink. It is a small sound, but it feels loud in the stillness. You collect the ice chips in a small bowl. They will be melted over the fire later to make more tea or soup. You step outside the door for a minute to check the wind lines. These are the long rawhide ropes that run from the top of the teepee to heavy stakes in the ground. In the middle of the night, the cold can cause these ropes to shrink and pull tight. If they get too tight, they might snap or pull the wooden stakes out of the frozen earth. You walk around the house touching each rope. They feel like the strings of a giant musical instrument, stiff and vibrating in the wind. You loosen one just a tiny bit, giving the house room to breathe and move with the gusts. The world outside is a silver and black landscape. The moon is high, and it makes the snow look like it is made of crushed diamonds. You stand perfectly still for a moment, looking at the great tribal circle. The teepees are all arranged in a big ring with their doors facing east toward the rising sun. In this moment of reflection, you see how the camp works as a team. Each house helps block the wind for the next one. Together, they create a pocket of calm in the middle of the empty plains. You listen to the distant howl of a wolf. It is a lonely, beautiful sound that reminds you how far you are from any other world. But you don't feel afraid. You feel like you are exactly where you are supposed to be. You check the horses one last time. They are huddled together, their backs to the wind. You can see the steam rising from their bodies, a warm mist in the moonlight. You move a few pieces of brush to make their windbreak a little stronger. This is the work of the guardian. You are looking out for the animals that help your family travel and hunt. Their safety is your safety. Back inside, you look at the fire. It has burned down to a beautiful bed of red coals. You use a small branch to stir them, bringing the heat back to the surface. You add 2 more buffalo chits from your basket. They will catch slowly and provide heat for the next few hours. You move with a slow, steady grace. In the night shift, you learn to move without wasted energy. Every step has a purpose. Every movement is about keeping the balance of the home. You notice a small tear in a piece of leather near the door. You reach for your work bag and pull out a bone needle and a piece of sinew. Sinew is the strong thread-like material taken from the back of a buffalo. It is much stronger than any cotton thread. You sit by the fire and make a few quick stitches to pull the leather back together. The light from the coals is just enough to see by. It is a peaceful task. The needle moves through the leather with a soft shushing sound. By doing these small jobs now, you make the morning better. When the sun finally comes up, the water will be ready, the ropes will be safe, and the door will be tight. You are the bridge between today and tomorrow. You are the one who makes sure the cycle of the camp continues without breaking. It is a quiet responsibility, but it is one that gives you a great sense of pride. You finish your repair and put your tools away. The teepee feels even more comfortable now that the small chores are done. You feel a sense of completion. You have looked after the water, the wood, the ropes, and the animals. You have been the watchman for your little world. The air is still and warm, and the smell of the buffalo chips is sweet and grounding. You settle back onto your bed and pull the robe over you once more. Your body is tired, but your mind is at peace. You have done the work of the night. You listen to the wind one last time before your eyes close. It is still out there, searching for a way in, but it will not find one. You have closed every gap. You are ready to rest, knowing that everything is in its place. The stars continue their slow dance across the smoke hole, and you drift back into a deep, warm sleep. The deep middle of the night has passed, and if you were to step outside, you would see the camp in its most beautiful form. All the homes are arranged in a very specific way. This is the great tribal circle. In the history of the plains, the tribes did not just set up their teepees anywhere they liked. They followed a plan that was as old as the stars. They built their village in a massive ring, often with a large opening that faced the east. This circle was a symbol of the people being one family, and it was also the best way to survive the night shift together. A simple historical fact about this circle is that it acted as a giant windbreak. When 20 or 30 teepees are standing in a ring, they break the force of the wind as it sweeps across the flat land. The wind hits the outer walls of the circle and is forced to go around or over the top. This creates a large area of quiet air in the very center of the camp. Inside the circle, the snow doesn't drift as high and the wind doesn't bite as hard. By living together in this shape, every family helped keep every other family warm. It was a community-wide system of protection. You walk to the center of your teepee and look at the eastern wall. This brings us to our microhistory detail, the door orientation. Almost every teepee on the plains had its door facing the east. There were two very smart reasons for this. First, the strongest and coldest winter winds usually come from the north or the west. By putting the door on the east side, you are putting your back to the wind. The solid, round back of the teepee takes the hit of the storm, leaving the door in a calm, sheltered spot. Second, it meant that the very first rays of the morning sun would shine right into the house, bringing light and hope to the family. As soon as the day began, you sit quietly and think about the circle. Even though you are alone in your house, you can feel the presence of the others all around you. You know that 30 feet to your left, another fire is glowing, and 30 feet to your right, another family is tucked into their robes. In this moment of reflection, you realize that survival on the plains was not a lonely job. It was something people did together. The circle made everyone feel safe. It was a wall made of homes. You listened to the soft, distant sound of a baby crying in a nearby teepee, followed by the low, soothing hum of a mother's song. The sound is muffled by the leather and the snow, but it carries through the still air of the circle, a reminder that life is continuing all around you. The circle also served as a map. Every family had a specific place in the ring. You always knew who your neighbors were. This was important during the night shift, because if a fire went out or a family ran out of food, they knew exactly where to go for help. Even in the middle of a pitch-black blizzard, you could walk out of your door, keep your hand on the leather walls of the houses, and find your way around the entire village without ever getting lost in the whiteout. You look at the poles of your own home leaning together at the top. You see how they mirror the shape of the whole camp. The individual teepee is a circle, and the village is a circle. It is a pattern that repeats over and over. This shape has no corners for the cold to hide in. It is a shape that flows. You feel a sense of harmony with the world. The stars move in a circle above you, and your life moves in a circle here on the ground. The snow is piled high between the houses now, forming white walls that connect one teepee to the next. This banking of snow around the whole circle made the village even warmer. It was like building a fortress of ice and leather. You think about the wisdom of the elders who decided on this layout. They knew that the wind was too strong for one person to fight alone, but it was no match for the circle. You feel the warmth of your own fire reflecting off the curved walls. Because the house is round, the heat travels in a smooth path, hugging the skin and the lining. There are no cold spots where the air gets stuck. Everything moves, everything breathes. You take a deep breath of the air, which is still sweet with the smell of the buffalo chips and the cedar poles. The night feels a little less dark when you think about the great tribal circle. You are part of a giant machine designed for living. You are a single spark in a ring of sparks. You feel a deep sense of belonging. You are not just a person trying to stay warm. You are a member of a tribe that has mastered the winter. You lay your head back down on your pillow of grass. The night shift is moving toward its end, and the camp is holding its breath for the morning. You know that soon the doors all around the circle will open, and the people will step out to greet the sun together. But for now, the circle is closed and quiet. It is a ring of safety in a vast, frozen sea. You close your eyes, the image of the great ring of homes glowing in your mind, and you fall back into a peaceful, protected sleep. The air inside the teepee is at its most still, and the fire has become a soft, glowing bed of jewels. You wake up not because of a noise, but because of a change in the light. You look toward the eastern side of the house, where the door is located. A very thin, pale line of grey is starting to show at the edges of the door flap. This is the first hint of the dawn. In the history of the Great Plains, this was the most important moment of the day. The people lived their lives in tune with the sun, and the way they built their homes made sure they never missed its arrival. Because your door faces the east, you are ready to receive the very first gift of warmth the day has to offer. A simple historical fact about the night shift is that the coldest time of the entire night is often the hour just before the sun comes up. The earth has spent many hours losing its heat to the black sky, and the frost is at its thickest. By having the door face the rising sun, the family can open the flap and let the light reach deep into the house, chasing away the shadows and the last of the night's chill. It is a natural alarm clock that brings hope and energy back to the circle. You sit up and pull your buffalo robe tight around your shoulders. Your breath is still visible in the air, a tiny cloud of white that catches the growing light. You reach for a small tool kept near the door. This is our microhistory detail, the door weight. It is often a beautifully polished stone or a heavy piece of wood sewn into a leather pocket at the bottom of the door flap. This weight ensures that the door stays shut tight against the wind. but it also makes it easy to flip the flap up over the crossbar when it is time to let the sun in. You feel the cold weight of the stone through the leather as you prepare to open the house. You take a moment to sit in the quiet before you move. The silence of the dawn is different from the silence of the midnight. The midnight was heavy and mysterious, but the dawn is light and expectant. You can hear the very first bird, a hardy winter sparrow, making a tiny brave sound in the distance. You look at the way the grey light makes the cedar poles look like silver. In this moment of reflection, you feel the transition from the night shift to the day. You have made it through the long freezing dark. You have kept the fire alive and the walls steady. You feel a deep sense of quiet strength. You are a survivor, and the world is about to wake up with you. You reach out and lift the door weight, flipping the flap upward. The movement is smooth and practiced. Immediately, a beam of pale golden white light cuts through the dimness of the teepee. It travels across the floor, highlighting the texture of the dry grass and the soft fur of the bed mats. It hits the back wall of the inner lining, turning the cream-colored leather into a bright, glowing screen. The light is so clear, it almost looks like you could touch it. You step out onto the small patch of cleared ground in front of the door. The air is incredibly sharp and fresh. It smells of ice and the promise of a clear day. You look toward the horizon, where the sun is just a sliver of brilliant orange peeking over the edge of the world. The snow on the plains has turned a delicate shade of pink and gold, reflecting the colors of the sky. It is a beautiful, clean world. The long struggle of the night is over, and the reward is this perfect, quiet beauty. You look at the other teepees in the circle. One by one, the other door flaps are being raised. It is like seeing a line of eyes opening at the same time. You see your neighbors stepping out, wrapping their robes tighter against the morning nip, and turning their faces toward the east. No one speaks. Everyone is simply taking in the light. This shared moment of greeting the sun is what binds the camp together. It is a reminder that you all shared the same cold night, and now you share the same warm morning. The sun rises higher, and you can actually feel the difference on your skin. Even though the air is still far below freezing, the direct hit of the sun's rays feels like a gentle touch. You turn back into the teepee, and the light follows you. It illuminates the smoke still rising from the embers, making it look like a pillar of silver reaching for the roof. The night shift tasks are ending, and the chores of the day are beginning. You will need to gather more wood, check the traps, and prepare the morning meal. But for these few minutes, you just stand in the doorway. You watch the dust motes dancing in the sunbeam. You feel the connection between your home and the sky. By facing the east, your house is not just a shelter. It is a way to stay connected to the rhythm of the universe. You are not hiding from the world. You are part of its movement. The golden light is now filling the entire room. It makes everything look warm and safe. You feel a surge of energy in your muscles. The tiredness of the night is gone, replaced by the steady pulse of the new day. You reach for the water bag and begin the first task of the morning, your movements sure and steady. You have stood the watch, you have kept the warmth, and now you have the sun to guide you. The long night is finished and the day is yours. As you stand in the golden light of the morning, you notice how the sounds of the camp are changing. During the night, the sounds were sharp and lonely, the crack of a frozen branch or the whistle of a gale. But now, the winter world has a different voice. It is the voice of a quiet, frozen peace. In the history of the Great Plains, the people learned to listen to these sounds. They were like a language that told you exactly how cold the air was, or if a change in the weather was coming. A simple historical fact about the winter on the plains is that sound travels much further in the cold. Because the air is very dry and very dense, noises do not fade away as quickly as they do in the summer. You can hear the sound of a moccasin walking on the snow from all the way across the tribal circle. You can hear the soft huff of a horse breathing in its pen 100 yards away. This made the night shift feel very intimate. Even when you were alone in your teepee, you were connected to everyone else by the tiny sounds of their lives moving through the frost. You reach for a small tool used to maintain the silence of the home. This is our micro-history detail, the snow brush. It is made from the stiff tail hairs of a buffalo or a bunch of tough prairie grass tied together. You use it to brush the light, powdery snow off your clothes and the mats near the door. It makes a very soft, sweeping sound. Shush, shh, 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 shh. If you don't brush the snow away, it will melt in the morning sun and make your furs damp. Keeping things dry is the secret to staying warm. You pause with the brush in your hand and listen. The wind has dropped to a tiny whisper. The silence is so big, It feels like a physical thing. You look at the snow-covered hills in the distance. They look like giant white buffaloes sleeping under a blue sky. In this moment of reflection, you feel the weight of the winter. It is a time when the earth is resting. It is a time for the night shift to slow down and for the people to be still. You feel a deep sense of calm. The busy, noisy days of the summer hunt are far away. Now, life is about the small things, the warmth of a hand, the smell of the fire, and the steady beat of your own heart. You can hear the singing of the ice on the creek. As the sun warms the frozen water, the ice expands and makes a long, low groaning sound. It sounds like the earth itself is stretching after a long sleep. To some, it might sound scary, but to you, it is a friendly sound. It means the sun is doing its work. It means the deep freeze of the midnight hours is over. Inside the teepee, the sounds are even softer. You hear the tiny plink of a single drop of water falling from the smoke pole onto a leather bag. You hear the rustle of the dry grass under your bed as you move. These tiny sounds are a comfort. They tell you that your world is solid and safe. You have built a place where you can hear the smallest things because you have shut out the big, noisy world of the storm. You look at the inner lining of the teepee. The wind is just barely touching the outer cover now, making a sound like a soft breath against a window. The dead air space between the walls is perfectly quiet. It is a pocket of stillness that you created with your own hands. You feel a sense of pride in our silence. It is a sign that your engineering is perfect. A noisy teepee is a cold teepee, but a quiet one is a place where the warmth can stay. You see a small bird land on the top of one of the cedar poles. You can hear the tiny scratch of its feet against the wood. It shakes its feathers, and you hear a sound like a deck of cards being shuffled. Even the smallest living things are finding their way in the morning light. You feel a connection to that bird. You both made it through the night by finding a way to stay out of the wind. The sounds of the camp are starting to pick up now. You hear the thump of a wood axe and the call of a child. The day is truly here, but you hold on to the quiet for just a moment longer. You take one more deep breath of the cold, clean air. It tastes like silver and ice. You feel refreshed and ready. The long, silent watch has ended, and the world is starting to speak again. You put the snow brush back in its place. You move toward the fire to add the first wood of the day. The night shift has taught you to appreciate the quiet. It has taught you that there is a great power in being still and listening. You are the guardian of the silence, and you have kept it well. You turn to the work of the morning with a steady hand and a peaceful mind, the songs of the winter still echoing in your ears. The sun is climbing higher, but the morning air still carries a sharp frost that can freeze the water in your cup in minutes. You look up at the ceiling of your home and see a part of the structure you haven't thought much about since the night began. Tucked just below the place where the cedar poles cross are the ozones. These are partial ceilings made of light, breathable cloth or soft deerskin. In the history of the plains, the ozones were the final piece of the thermal puzzle. They acted like a modern drop ceiling, stopping the heat from escaping too quickly through the smoke hole. A simple historical fact about heat is that it always wants to rise. In a tall, cone-shaped house like a teepee, all the warmth from your fire naturally moves toward the top. Without the ozonas, that heat would rush straight out into the cold sky, leaving you shivering on the floor. But these clever fabric panels catch the rising warmth. They trap a layer of hot air right above your head, pushing it back down toward the living area. It is a simple, beautiful way to recycle the energy of your fire. Your micro-history detail for this section is the ozone tie. These are thin, braided cords of buffalo hair, used to hang the panels from the poles. Because buffalo hair is rough and toothy, these ties don't slip on the smooth cedar. You can adjust the height of the ozones depending on how cold it is. On a night like the one you just passed, you would hang them lower to keep the warmth as close to the floor as possible. You reach up and touch one of the ties, feeling the coarse, strong texture of the hair. You sit back down and look at the ceiling. The ozonas are moving slightly in the rising heat, waving like the surface of a quiet lake. The light from the fire and the sun reflects off them, creating a soft, glowing canopy over your bed. In this moment of reflection, you feel the true cleverness of this home. Every part of it, from the snow at the bottom to the cloth at the top, has been designed to work with the laws of nature. You aren't fighting the cold, you are dancing with it. You feel a deep sense of security, like you are a chick tucked under a mother bird's wing. The world is vast and frozen, but your 3 feet of space is a perfect, tropical summer. The ozones do one more important job during the night shift. They protect you from interior rain. Sometimes the heat of the fire melts the frost on the very top of the poles, and tiny drops of water can fall down. The azones catch these drops, keeping your bed and your furs perfectly dry. They are the final shield in your fortress. You realize that to live well on the plains, you have to think about every direction. The wind from the sides, the cold from the ground, and the rising heat from the top. You watch the smoke from the fire move around the edges of the ozone panels. It finds its way out through the chimney space, but the heat stays behind. It is a perfect filter. You think about how much wood you would have to burn if you didn't have these panels. You would need a massive fire that would eat up all your fuel in an hour. But with the ozonas, a few buffalo chips and a couple of sticks are enough to keep the room at 60 degrees all night long. You feel the warmth on the top of your head. It is a steady, gentle pressure. It makes the air in the teepee feel thick and rich. You can smell the cedar and the sweet grass even more clearly because the air is so warm. This is the refined wisdom the elders talk about. It isn't just one thing that keeps you alive. It is the combination of 20 small, smart ideas working together. You take a small wooden bowl and set it on a stone near the fire to warm your morning broth. As you wait, you look at the patterns of the light on the ozone panels. They look like clouds. It is a peaceful way to start the day. You have survived the dark, and you have done it with style and comfort. You are a master of the night shift, a keeper of the ancient engineering that turns a tent into a palace. The sun is now hitting the panels from above, through the smoke hole, and they are glowing like white paper lanterns. The room is so bright and warm that you finally set your buffalo robe aside. You are standing in your shirt, comfortable and strong, while outside the temperature is still far below freezing. This is the victory of the teepee. This is the reward for the hard work of the day before. You take a sip of the warm broth, feeling the heat move through your body once more. You look around at your home, from the snow-banked floor to the ozone ceiling. It is a beautiful, perfect circle. You feel a deep sense of gratitude for the materials of the earth and the cleverness of your people. The morning is moving on, and you are ready for whatever it brings. You have mastered the air and the fire, and you are safe in your nest of leather and wood. The morning is now fully awake, and the camp is alive with the sounds of a new day. You sit by your fire, which is now a small, friendly pile of embers. As you prepare to start your daily work, you think about the people who taught you everything you know. In the history of the Great Plains, the night shift was not something you learned from a book. It was a gift of wisdom passed down from the grandparents. As you look at the strong cedar poles and the thick buffalo hides, you realize you are seeing thousands of years of thinking and testing. A simple historical fact about the tribes of the plains is that they were always moving. Because they followed the great buffalo herds, they could not build heavy houses of stone or brick. They needed a home that was fast to move but strong enough to beat the winter. The grandparents were the ones who remembered the biggest storms of the past. They were the ones who knew exactly how many poles a house needed to stand up to a mountain wind. When you build your home, you are following their map. You are using the refined ancestral wisdom that has kept your people safe since the beginning of time. Your micro-history detail for this section is the story stick. Many of the elders kept a long piece of wood with small notches or marks carved into it. Each mark was a reminder of a winter counter record of the year's most important event. Some marks might stand for a year of deep snow, while others might stand for a year of plenty. By looking at these sticks, the grandparents could predict what kind of winter was coming. They could tell the young people to gather extra buffalo chips, or to find thicker cedar poles. They were the watchmen of the long history of the plains. You run your hand over the smooth leather of your inner lining. You think about the many nights your grandfather sat in this same spot, telling stories while the fire burned low. The stories were not just for fun. They were lessons. They taught you how to listen to the wind and how to respect the buffalo. In this moment of reflection, you feel the weight of that knowledge. You aren't just one person trying to stay warm. You are part of a long, long line of people who have mastered the cold. You feel a deep sense of pride. You have used their tricks, the hot stones, the air tunnels, the fur-in robes, and they worked perfectly. You are the living proof that their wisdom is true. The grandparents also taught you about the spirit of the home. They said that the teepee is a circle because life is a circle. Everything in nature wants to be round the sun, the moon, the earth, and the nests of birds. By making your home a circle, you are staying in balance with the world. This is why you feel so peaceful inside these walls. You aren't fighting against the shape of the land. You are part of it. You look at the smoke hole at the top. The elders called this the way to the stars. They taught you that even when the door is shut and the snow is high, you are always connected to the sky. This connection is what keeps your heart from feeling small during the long dark months. It reminds you that the winter is just a season and the sun will always come back. The night shift requires a certain kind of patience that only comes with age. The young men might want to rush and build quickly, but the elders teach you to move slowly and check every knot. They know that a single loose rope can be the difference between a warm sleep and a cold struggle. You have learned to value that slow, careful way of working. You have learned that being smart is better than being fast. You see an older man walking past your door, his white hair shining in the sun. He gives you a small nod. He sees that your smoke is rising straight and your snowbank is high. He knows you've listened to the lessons. That nod feels better than any prize. It means you are ready to be a teacher yourself one day. You are the next link in the chain. You feel the warmth of the sun on your face and the warmth of the fire at your feet. The transition from the night to the day is complete. You have used the tools of the ancestors to turn a freezing wilderness into a comfortable home. You have kept the fire, you have fed the family, and you have stood the watch. You take a deep breath, feeling the strength in your lungs. The world is big and cold, but you are not afraid of it. You have the wisdom of 1,000 years wrapped around your shoulders like a buffalo robe. You are ready for the work of the day, knowing that when the sun goes down again, you will know exactly what to do. You are a guardian of the past and the builder of the future. The circle remains unbroken. The sun is now well above the horizon, casting its long, bright fingers across the white expanse of the plains. The world is bathed in a crisp, brilliant light that makes the snow sparkle like a sea of diamonds. Inside the teepee, the air is warm and still, a final lingering gift from the night shift. You stand in the center of your home, looking around at the circle of leather and wood that has protected you through the long dark. The night shift is coming to its natural end. The time of watching and guarding is over, and the time of the living day has begun. A simple historical fact about the end of winter nights is that the teepee itself would often be adjusted as the day warmed up. You reach for the bottom of the inner lining and pull it up a few inches. This allows the fresh morning air to circulate even better, clearing out the last of the wood smoke and the heavy scent of the buffalo robes. It is a way of waking up the house. The teepee is not a static building. It is a flexible, breathing thing that changes with the hours of the day. By opening the bottom slightly, you invite the energy of the morning to flow through the space. Your final microhistory detail is the willow rest. This is a beautifully woven backrest made of thin willow rods tied together with sinew. It looks like a long, flexible mat. You set it up near the door, leaning it against one of the cedar poles. It is designed to support your back while you sit and look out at the camp. It is a simple piece of furniture, but it represents the comfort that comes after a night of hard work. You run your fingers over the smooth, peeled willow, feeling the strength and flexibility of the wood. It is a small piece of the forest that you carry with you everywhere. You sit on your willow rest for a moment, looking out through the open door. The camp is a hive of quiet activity. You see the blue smoke rising from 20 different fires, all merging into a single soft cloud against the blue sky. You see the children playing in the snow and the dogs shaking the frost from their coats. In this moment of reflection, you feel a deep sense of accomplishment. You have successfully navigated the night shift. You have used the cedar, the buffalo, the snow, and the fire to create a world where life can thrive in the middle of a frozen wilderness. You feel a sense of peace that only comes when you are in perfect harmony with the land. The winter is no longer a monster to be feared. It is a teacher that has shown you the power of your own cleverness and the strength of your community. You think about the long night you just passed. You remember the first bite of the frost, the heavy lifting of the poles, and the steady glow of the buried stones. Each task was a stitch in the fabric of your survival. You realize that the night shift is what makes the day possible. Without the work of the night the fire horn, the air tunnel, the smoke flaps, there would be no morning like this. You have stood the watch, and because of you, the circle is safe. The warmth of the sun is hitting your face now, and it feels different than the firelight. It is a broad, golden warmth that promises the eventual return of the spring. You know that there are many more cold nights ahead, but you are not worried. You have the system, you have the wisdom, you have the tools. You have turned the challenges of the Great Plains into a sophisticated way of living that has stood the test of time. You look at the fire pit, where only a few grey ashes remain. You will clear them away soon, making room for a new fire tonight. The cycle will continue. The sun will set, the wind will rise, and the night shift will begin once more. But for now, you can rest. You can enjoy the light. You have earned this moment of stillness. You feel the weight of the willow rest against your back, supporting you, just as the traditions of your people support your life. The vastness of the plains no longer feels empty or lonely. It feels like a home. You look at the horizon, where the white earth meets the blue sky, and you see the beauty in the cold. You see the strength in the silence. You are a part of this landscape, as much as the buffalo or the cedar. You have found your place in the circle. You take a final, deep breath of the morning air. It is sweet and cold, filling your lungs with energy. You stand up, fold your willow rest, and prepare to step out into the camp. The watch is over. The day is here. You move with a steady, confident stride, ready to join your people in the work and the joy of the winter day. You are the watchman, and you have kept the night well. As the sun continues its slow climb, the world feels larger and brighter. The biting edge of the wind has softened, and the deep, heavy shadows of the night have vanished into the white light of the morning. You can feel the warmth of the teepee walls behind you, a lingering reminder of the protection you built with your own hands. The frost on the grass is beginning to turn into tiny, shimmering drops of water, reflecting the sky like thousands of small stars on the ground. You feel a deep sense of calm spreading through your body. The tension of the night is gone, replaced by a soft, heavy relaxation. Your breathing is slow and even, matching the quiet pulse of the waking camp. You are safe. You are warm. You are part of a world that knows how to take care of itself. The long dark has passed, and the light has returned, just as it always does. You can let go of the worries of the watch now. The fires are steady, the walls are strong, and the people are together. Everything is in its right place. The buffalo robes are folded, the water is fresh, and the circle remains unbroken. You are wrapped in the peace of the plains, a peace that is as deep as the earth and as wide as the sky. You can close your eyes for a moment, letting the golden sun warm your eyelids, knowing that you have done your work well. The world is at rest, and you are at rest within it. The sun is rising, the gates are opening, the watch is ended.